I married Xun'er, but she refuses to consummate the marriage. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 Yuan. Would there be a chance to meet again in the future? The four Huangs with combined attack skills are not to be underestimated. If they were ordinary Zongs, they would probably have to think twice. But Gu Fei is not an ordinary Zong. Even if the Huangs have combined attack skills that can greatly increase their combat power, they can't pose any threat to Gu Fei. In the sky, the four snake-man old women who appeared carefully stared at the overly young opponent, without any thought of underestimating the enemy. Form a formation. Suddenly, one of the old women screamed, and then the four of them looked at each other and finally took a step forward. If Gu Fei's strength was not that strong, they naturally wouldn't have to fight desperately. However, the moment the four of them faced Gu Fei, they felt their scalps tingling. Their subconscious told them that Gu Fei was very dangerous. Therefore, they felt that they had to use the strongest means from the beginning. After that soul-stirring blow, Gu Fei did not continue to attack, but stood there, looking at them coldly. The green light was extremely fast, and it seemed that it would penetrate Gu Fei's heart in just one breath. The people of the snake tribe retreated because of fear. Yuan felt worried, and the emotion value increased by 100. He raised his right palm, and the green light suddenly stopped in front of his palm. Although the seven-colored sky-swallowing python was naughty, it would not tease him like this. The four Huangs were naturally no match for Gu Fei and were easily defeated by him. He felt a slight pain suddenly coming from his sleeves. The snake elder felt fear, and the emotion value increased by 10. This emotion helped her temporarily suppress the soul of the seven-colored sky-swallowing python and gain control of her body. A cold green light covered the sky, and many strong men behind Gu Fei showed fearful eyes, but Gu Fei just glanced at it. Gu Fei understood that the situation just now was probably caused by Queen Medusa. Gu Fei flicked it lightly, and the green light turned around and turned into several thin lines to bombard the four snake-old women. Perhaps, it was because of her attack on the four elders of her snake people that Queen Medusa felt extremely angry. Seeing this, the four old women looked panicked and tried to avoid it, but they were still injured by the attack and spit out a mouthful of turbid blood. But the next moment, Gu Fei suddenly frowned, causing Yuan to look at him worriedly. The snake elders feel fear, and the emotion value increases by 10. Gu Fei feels shocked, and the emotion value increases by 50. If you dare to block the way again, you will die. Queen Medusa feels angry, and the emotion value increases by 100. The green light suddenly shot at Gu Fei. The shock in Gu Fei's group of people's eyes has not yet dissipated, and their faces are full of undisguised shock. Gu Fei is really too evil. Yuan has seen Gu Fei's extraordinary strength so much that she doesn't feel that surprised. She just silently thought in her heart that this guy has improved again. At this moment, Gu Fei's eyes flickered in the distance, looking at the harmony between Yuan and Gu Fei, as if he remembered something. He murmured unconsciously, Yuan and this person obviously know each other. Could it be that the elixir was given by this boy? How could this boy be so young to refine such a perfect elixir? Gu Fei is shocked. Emotional value increases by 50. Of course he doesn't want to believe it, but now it seems that this is probably the truth. In fact, Gu Fei has always had a crush on Yuan and has dreamed of being a hero saving a beautiful woman. He knows that his strength is not as good as Yuan, so he has worked hard on refining medicine. Therefore, at this moment, seeing that the person who is the hero saving the beauty is not himself, he can't help feeling bitter. But how can he compare with Gu Fei's evil genius? Gu Fei was secretly sad. On this side, Yuan hesitated again and again, biting her lips lightly, and finally hesitantly opened her mouth and whispered, "Will we have a chance to meet again in the future? I mean, where is your family? Do I have a chance to visit?" Yuan said to Gu Fei very tactfully. Yuan feels uneasy. Emotional value increases by 100. She clearly knows the answer that Gu Fei will give, but she still doesn't give up and wants to hear his answer. She still has a little expectation in her heart. Yuan feels expectant. Emotional value increases by 100. You have too many things to do. I'm afraid you won't have the opportunity to travel far next time. We'll meet again if we're destined to." Gu Fei looked at the cold woman in front of him with his eyes trembling slightly. Her fair and delicate face was calm, but there was an unobvious expectation in her shallow eyes. He answered a little cruelly. However, Gu Fei also left some room in his words. His gentle rejection made Yuan feel disappointed for a moment. Yuan feels disappointed. Emotional value increases by 100. Her life, if placed in the Jiama Empire, can be considered quite successful. At a young age, as a girl, she achieved the position of the leader of a large sect and climbed to the realm of Huang. Although she is not second to none, there are countless disciples who admire her existence and admire the name Yuan. Looking back, it can be considered as unlimited scenery. But now, she realized that those achievements were not advantages at all, and perhaps they were just things that held her back. If she was not the sect leader, but just an ordinary person, could she pursue what she wanted without restraint? Could she follow Gu Fei and leave without hesitation this time? Yuan was in a very complicated mood. She looked at Gu Fei deeply, and unknown emotions were brewing in her beautiful eyes. Yuan felt reluctant to leave, and her emotion value increased by 100. The two of them said goodbye. "Little guy, you have to be honest, otherwise, I will punish you." After saying goodbye to Yuan, Gu Fei came to a secret place and took out the little snake from his sleeve, which was as warm and cool as jade. He put the little snake in his palm, raised it to the position in front of his eyes, and stared at her closely. Sensing Gu Fei's gaze, the colorful little snake also raised its little head high, and its pupils with a light purple color were full of spirituality. The snake opened its mouth slightly, and a cold snake tongue spit out lightly. The snake body came close to Gu Fei's face, trying very hard, as if it wanted to lick his face. A simple and silly look. At this time, it was obvious that the soul of the seven-colored sky-swallowing python dominated this body. However, Gu Fei knew that the suppressed soul of Queen Medusa could still feel everything in the outside world. But Gu Fei didn't care about these. With his strength, he was not afraid of what Queen Medusa would do. Afterwards, Gu Fei rushed back to Xiao Yan and King Lin, because of the protection of the Lion King. Even though there were snake people from all directions rushing to defend the holy city of Medusa, Xiao Yan and King Lin were still very safe, and no snake people dared to come up and offend. The 6th-level flying magic beast and its mysterious master became the most feared existence in the hearts of those snake people. After Gu Fei came back, Xiao Yan noticed his good mood, looked at him, and asked with a smile, "It seems that you got the strange fire?" Gu Fei nodded, and Xiao Yan smiled, her beautiful eyes full of joy. Xiao Yan feels happy, and the emotion value increases by 100. Then, the purple crystal-winged Lion King carried the three people away from the holy city of Medusa. Gu Fei planned to find a quiet place to refine and absorb the azure lotus earth core fire. Chapter 52. This woman is so seductive. This is it. After finding a suitable cave, Gu Fei asked the Lion King to slowly descend to the ground. Next, he told the Lion King to take care of Xiao Yan and King Lin. In addition, Gu Fei also set up a protective energy shield in their activity area. He was worried that the energy fluctuations of the fusion of the strange fire would affect them. "You wait here for me. It shouldn't take long for me to refine the strange fire." After giving the last instruction, Gu Fei walked into the cave and took out the lotus seed from the ring. On the lotus, a small green flame was burning faintly. In the original work, Yan survived a narrow escape when he merged the azure lotus earth core fire, and he almost lost his life with the help of Yao Lao. Gu Fei naturally didn't need to worry about these, because the azure lotus earth core fire was even weaker than the sea heart flame. The ray of pressure emitted made the purple crystal-winged Lion King not far away tremble with fear, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. His hair rustled with the wind, and the two flames merged fiercely. Gu Fei looked indifferent and calm. Gu Fei felt the thickness and fullness of the qi in his body. After a pause, he called up the system's attribute panel. Half a day later, a new type of strange fire was born in Gu Fei's hands. Only one step away, it was enough to reach the realm of Xun. The powerful energy fluctuations were centered on Gu Fei and swept out in an instant. When he opened his eyes again, a strange light flashed in his eyes, and his momentum rose steadily. 9-star Zong, fighting skills, flame-devouring cage, advanced earth rank, sun finger, intermediate earth rank, heavenly star step, advanced earth rank body movement fighting skill. Gu Fei closed his eyes. Soul, early spiritual realm, skills, great class heart sutra, elementary heaven rank, the deep and quiet sea heart flames, like the sea water, and the burning green lotus earth heart fire, like the green lotus, gradually blended in his hands. Cultivation, 9-star Zong age, 16 constitution, level 78. The formation of this new type of strange fire, the energy dissipated everywhere fed back to Gu Fei's chi, plus Gu's cultivation and precipitation since he came out of the ancient world. Using the sea heart flame to suppress the blue lotus earth core fire, it will be easier to refine than the previous time. Next, Gu Fei's right palm was facing up, and a ball of blue flames ignited without wind. Qualification, level 101 host, Gu Fei alchemy, peak 7th grade fusion of strange fire, sea heart flame and blue lotus earth core fire. Emotional value accumulation, 14,930. Gu Fei's eyes fell on the last column. Looking at his emotional value accumulation, he was very satisfied. Since leaving the ancient world, the emotional value harvest in these few short months is more than the harvest in the previous few years. Because all the people around him are lucky, the emotional value provided is far more than staying in the ancient world. However, although this emotional value seems to be a lot, now he wants to improve in all aspects, and the emotional value required is much more than before. The threshold for improving strength is getting higher and higher, and the emotional value required is also increasing. Gu Fei plans to accumulate some more and upgrade his skills when the time comes. As for the alchemy technique, although the panel shows that he is only at the peak of the 7th grade now, however, Gu Fei already has the ability to refine the 8th grade elixir. Because his huge soul power has long entered the spiritual realm, the soul realm of the alchemist is divided into 4 levels: the ordinary realm, the spiritual realm, the heavenly realm, and the emperor realm. Each realm is divided into 3 small levels: the early stage, the middle stage, and the late stage. Reaching the spiritual realm means that the alchemist can refine the 8th grade elixir, the heavenly realm can refine the 9th grade elixir, and the emperor realm can refine the emperor realm elixir. Since ancient times, no one has reached such a realm. Gu Fei's soul power has reached the spiritual realm. He only needs to try to refine an 8th grade elixir to successfully upgrade and become an 8th grade alchemist. Hiss. While Gu Fei was thinking in his heart, the 7-colored swallowing sky python suddenly crawled out of his sleeve and called to Gu Fei like a spoiled child. It rubbed his hand with its head anxiously. "Little guy, are you hungry?" Gu Fei smiled and took out a lotus seed from his ring for the little snake to swallow. The 7-colored sky swallowing python is dissatisfied, and the emotion value increases by 50. The lotus seed looks small, and the little snake glanced at Gu Fei with disdain, as if saying, "How can this fill you up?" However, Gu Fei had already handed it to her, and she swallowed it reluctantly. In fact, the lotus seed, which looks inconspicuous, takes 100 years to condense. The energy contained in it is huge, and even a strong man in the Duang realm will benefit greatly from it. After the little snake took it, violent energy suddenly rushed into its body, and its stomach bulged a little, which seemed a little difficult to digest. "Little guy, it seems that you can't digest this thing. Do you want help?" Looking at the little snake's slightly bulging belly, even a little funny, Gu Fei smiled, stretched out his hand, and was about to touch the little snake's abdomen. When he was about to help, suddenly, a strong light suddenly burst out from the body of the 7-colored sky swallowing python. The light surged, drowning the small snake in the center. Gu Fei squinted his eyes. At this moment, he could clearly feel that the 7-colored swallowing sky python in his hand, which was originally a small body, suddenly became larger. At the same time, it seemed to be softer and more delicate. After a moment, the empty feeling in Gu Fei's right arm had disappeared. Instead, there was a soft place full of flexibility. The smooth touch like a tender catkin filled Gu Fei's senses. After his palm touched the soft thing that was as soft as a woman's body, Gu Fei seemed to remember something. At that moment, His face suddenly became extremely strange. It seems that the soul of Queen Medusa has temporarily gained the upper hand. Gu Fei slowly lowered his head and looked directly into the beautiful eyes of the woman in his arms. He saw a pair of bright and evil eyes, staring at him with a bit of coldness. Her face was full of anger, her eyes were cold, and the murderous intent that seemed to want to cut Gu Fei into pieces slowly climbed up Gu Fei's back. Queen Medusa is angry. Emotional value increased by 100. Her beautiful eyes were raised, the tails of her eyes were flying, her red lips were tightly pursed, and there was a fascinating charm in her every frown and smile. Just staring at him fiercely, Gu Fei was stunned. Looking at that perfect face that could be called enchanting, Gu Fei almost couldn't move his eyes away for a while, and his face was hot. This enchanting face was like a masterpiece of heaven. Even with such bright eyes, it still had an enchanting charm that was difficult to conceal. This woman is almost a beauty in every man's heart. At this moment, Queen Medusa's delicate body was not wearing a single piece of clothing. Her elastic and tender skin fit closely with Gu Fei, and the enlarged pretty face in front of him brought him a great shock. Queen Medusa lay in Gu Fei's arms in this charming posture, which can be said to have brought Gu Fei an incomparable pleasure. He only felt his cheeks burning, his whole body stiff, and a ball of evil fire surging in his abdomen. Chapter 53. You will thank me in the future. Queen Medusa feels ashamed. Emotional value increases by 100. Queen Medusa feels resentful. Emotional value increases by 100. Although Queen Medusa's pretty face also blushed a little due to embarrassment, there was more of a murderous intent. The blush of shame and anger on her cheeks was because it was the first time she had such close physical contact with a man. But this boy dared to offend her so much. Damn! Queen Medusa shouted coldly, and a delicate and slender arm like white jade quickly reached out to Gu Fei's neck. The soft fingertips were about to touch Gu Fei's skin, and the boneless little hand seemed to break his neck in the next second. However, her speed was very slow in Gu Fei's eyes. The moment before Queen Medusa was about to succeed, Gu Fei quickly reached out and pinched her snow-white wrist. The thin white wrist was circled in his palm, and the burning body temperature made her delicate body tremble slightly. She just stretched out her hand to attack, seemingly without using any chi, but it was already the fastest speed. With that force, as long as an ordinary Wang was touched by her, his neck would be broken. After hearing his words, Queen Medusa said unconvinced. In short, she didn't think Gu Fei had done her a favor. If I hadn't fed you the earth fire lotus seeds, how could you have recovered so quickly? Hearing this, Queen Medusa's pretty face was slightly cold, and her beautiful eyes were full of coldness. Queen Medusa has anger and surprise emotions, and the emotion value is increased by 100. I can still get such resources in my clan. Humphrey, you have also seen the foundation of my snake people. Those people in Gu Fei are not good enough, she said coldly, repaying kindness with enmity. What favor have you done to me? Looking at Queen Medusa's murderous intent, Gu Fei smiled and said slowly, the strength of the snake people is definitely not comparable to the Gamma Empire. He is clearly forcing a sale. You were so weak at that time. If you were found by Gu Fei and his group, you would be in great danger. But at that time, Gu Fei did not seem to use his fighting spirit. His strong grip made her unable to resist. Gu Fei said with a smile, Queen Medusa is dissatisfied, and her emotion value increases by 100. Queen Medusa, how can you repay kindness with enmity? Gu Fei's strength was far beyond her imagination. Although Queen Medusa looked like this, she was still a little surprised in her heart. Queen Medusa said with disdain. However, what Queen Medusa said was indeed correct. Gu Fei continued, because their enemies are several surrounding empires. If the people of the Gamma Empire can threaten the snake people, then the snake people would not have existed for so many years. Gu Fei, a mere Gu Fei, even if he brought a large group of helpers, could not really do anything to the snake people. This time, it was just because she happened to fuse the strange fire that gave them an opportunity. It doesn't matter if you don't agree. Anyway, you will thank me in the future. Seeing that Queen Medusa was stubborn and refused to admit it, Gu Fei just snorted and laughed, and did not continue the topic. There was a brief silence between the two, and Gu Fei's eyes became more and more erratic. At this moment, His eyes were unconsciously attracted by the snow-white scenery under Queen Medusa's neck. The soft and perfect lines rose and fell with Queen Medusa's breathing, and the slight vibration of her chest when she spoke was also particularly attractive. This was the first time Gu Fei saw a female body, and Queen Medusa's body was so perfect and hot that he unconsciously breathed a little faster. Queen Medusa has anger, and the emotion value increases by 100. Human, when this king recovers, I will definitely cut you into pieces. How dare you stare at this king so offensively? Queen Medusa was of course keenly aware of the fiery gaze falling on her naked body. She gritted her teeth, and her beautiful eyes flashed with dazzling flames. However, she also knew that she was no match for Gu Fei. Are you planning to keep me as a pet? After a moment, she suppressed her anger and made a tingling sound. That voice was hoarse and seductive, as if it had a little hook. Gu Fei smiled and shook his head, saying softly, "It was the little guy who was willing to follow me." He looked at Queen Medusa staring at him angrily, with the corners of his mouth raised, and then continued, "Don't be so irritable, follow me. You can recover quickly and reach a realm you have never reached before." Gu Fei seemed to feel something was wrong, and after saying this, he let go of Queen Medusa's wrist. It was really the excessive contact between the two that made Gu Fei's face flushed, and he didn't know where to look. As soon as Gu Fei's hand was released, Queen Medusa quickly pulled the quilt on the edge of the stone platform over to cover her body. That charming curve, even with the quilt covering it, still looked extremely tempting. On the edge of the stone platform, a lavender snake tail drooped gently, swaying slightly, releasing a wild temptation. To be honest, facing such a hot body, Gu Fei almost couldn't hold back. If Queen Medusa had recovered her human form at this time, without the snake tail, I'm afraid Gu Fei would have been unable to resist and executed her on the spot. Such a seductive and charming woman, any man would be excited. Human, if you don't kill me now, you will regret it in the future. I will never let you go. Today's humiliation will be repaid another day. Queen Medusa looked at Gu Fei again and shouted coldly. Her delicate body slowly crawled down, and suddenly, the quilt trapped around her body was compressed into an attractive arc. Immediately, a strong light burst out, and Queen Medusa's body slowly shrank, and finally turned into the colorful little snake. Gu Fei lifted the little snake up and touched her cold body helplessly. In the deep of the magnificent palace in the capital of Jiama, in a hall. At this moment, in the hall, an old man in a hemp robe sat at the first seat in the hall. Next to the old man, there was a tall woman in a luxurious brocade robe. The woman had a beautiful appearance and a cold and elegant temperament. Moreover, under this cold and elegant temperament, there was a bit of majesty cultivated by the royal family. What? The old man and the young woman beside him looked at each other, both of them showing deep surprise in their eyes. A sixth-level magic beast appeared on the eastern border. After looking at the letter in his hand again, Jia Xingchen couldn't help muttering. On the side, Yuan Yi continued his words, with the same surprise in his voice. A teenager can actually ride a sixth-level magic beast. You know, this sixth-level magic beast is extremely rare in the entire Jiama Empire, not to mention that someone can ride on their backs. Moreover, the sixth-level magic beast is very arrogant, and will fight to the death if it is offended by humans. How did this sixth-level magic beast become the mount of a human boy? Jia Xingchen looked depressed. I just received news that the leader of the Yunlin sect and Dan Wang and others also seemed to have gone to the eastern border during this period. He and Dan looked at each other and both felt that the matter was becoming more and more confusing. Recommend a wave of food and grass. Chapter 54. Adding suspicion to Xingchen. Uninvited guest. In the hall, Jia Xingchen and Yayi fell into a brief silence. After thinking for a moment, Yayi guessed, Grandpa Emperor, could it be that some treasure has appeared in the eastern border? Very likely. Hearing this, Jia Xingchen nodded. Those who went to the eastern border this time were not ordinary people. How could they appear at the eastern border at the same time? The leader of the Yunlin sect was fine, as the woman often went out for training. But why did Dan Wang Gu suddenly come to the eastern border? Alchemists like him are usually heavily protected in extremely safe places. In addition, in the news sent back from the border, those mysterious boys and girls who rode on the 6th level flying monsters. Such a group of people would only appear there if some good treasure appeared in the world. Jia Xingchen narrowed his eyes, and a gleam of light flashed in his turbid eyes. He said, "It seems that it's time for me to move my old bones." Therefore, Jia Xingchen decided to go and see it with his own eyes, just in case. They are powerful and cruel. The Gamma Empire combined the power of several major empires to barely expel the Snake people. It can be seen that the comprehensive strength of the Snake people is far beyond the ability of the Gamma Empire alone to fight. These top masters are naturally used to protect Tan's safety. Outside the border, in the Tiger Desert, the Snake people are entrenched. On the back of this flying beast, there is not only Jia Xingchen, a Duang strongman, but also a Duang, and 7 or 8 Dling guards. Hearing this, Yao hurriedly requested, "This matter is probably related to the Snake people occupying the Tiger Desert." When there was a movement in the palace, other big families in the imperial capital also got some news and paid special attention. The eastern border is a very sensitive place. Jia Xingchen picked and chose, and finally selected several people, and took them on the road to the eastern border. After all, when going to the eastern border, sometimes Jia Xingchen must act alone. "Grandpa Emperor, this matter is of great importance. Ye also wants to go with you." "Okay, this may be a good experience. It will be of great benefit to your strength and knowledge. Without the close protection of the Huang, the safety of Tianyi, the future successor of the royal family, must be guaranteed." Soon, a huge flying beast flew out of the Jiama palace. Jia Xingchen knew the background of the Snake people. In the past, the Jiama Empire and several surrounding empires barely drove the Snake people to the depths of the desert and could not completely eradicate them. After all, he is old, and he also hopes that Tianyi can experience more, have stronger strength, more knowledge, and be prepared to rule the entire huge empire. Jia Xingchen raised his eyebrows, but did not refuse. As the ruler of the royal family, Jia Xingchen would never allow some uncontrollable things to happen in his own country. "Is the news true? How can a group of teenagers have a 6th-level magic beast as a mount? My father once encountered a 6th-level magic beast. Just looking at it, the terrifying pressure was enough to make people below the Duang level unable to stand up straight." Why did the leader of the Yunlin sect and the Dan King Gu Fei show up? Could it be that some treasure really came out on the eastern border? Many big families were discussing this matter secretly. After all, it happened on the eastern border, which is a very sensitive place. The eastern border of the Jiama Empire, the border with the Yager Desert. Gu Fei put the 7-colored swallowing sky python that had not yet woken up into his sleeves again, and then walked out of the cave. The touch of Queen Medusa's soft and smooth skin seemed to still linger on his fingertips. The fiery lines, her beautiful eyes flashing with anger and her blushing cheeks kept reappearing in Gu Fei's mind, because of some charming things that happened between him and Queen Medusa just now. Even though Gu Fei actually did nothing, his face was still a little red at this moment. In his mind, the seductive image of Queen Medusa's naked body appeared from time to time, which he could not control. "Brother Gu Fei, what's wrong with you?" Seeing Gu Fei's abnormality, Dao Yixian and King Lin, who were waiting outside the cave, asked with some concern. Dao Yixian has a concerned emotion, and the emotion value increases by 100. King Lin has a concerned emotion, and the emotion value increases by 70. "It's okay, maybe it's because I spent too much energy on refining the strange fire this time." If this is said to others, it is indeed true. Refining strange fire is a matter of life and death. If you are not careful, you will be backfired by the strange fire and be directly destroyed. A monster like Gu Fei who easily refined the Kinglian earth core fire is an outlier. Gu Fei smiled and covered up their past, and did not say anything about what happened just now. Dao Yixian certainly noticed that he was hiding something, but chose not to ask. If Gu Fei wanted to say it, he would naturally tell her. "Then you should pay attention to rest," Dao Yixian said worriedly. Dao Yixian is worried, and her emotion value increases by 100. Her undisguised concern warmed Gu Fei's heart. He touched Dao Yixian's head and responded softly, and Dao Yixian smiled faintly. Afterwards, Dao Yixian and King Lin went to make a fire and cook. The life of 3 people and 1 beast seemed very peaceful, happy and comfortable. This kind of life was something King Lin had never dared to think about before. At this moment, she stared at Gu's back silently, and was very glad for the decision she made at the time. King Lin is satisfied, and her emotion value increases by 70. Gu heard the system's prompt sound. His figure paused, and then he continued to think about where to go next. After taking away the King Lian Earth Core Fire, Gu actually plans to leave the Jiama Empire. Although there are indeed some people with higher luck in the Jiama Empire, Gu already has Xiao and King Lin by his side, and the purple crystal-winged Lion King can barely make up half of them. For the time being, he did not have a strong idea to find those people with higher luck. Along the way, the 3 of them did not travel fast, and Lion King would stop every few hours. Xiao and King Lin were chatting, and the 2 girls' eyes were sparkling. Gu watched them quietly from the side, with a smile on his face unconsciously. Yes, guide the fighting spirit in your body and feel the pent-up energy in the air. Sometimes, Gu would patiently guide the ignorant King Lin to practice, and with the terrifying physique blessing of the green snake 3 flower pupils, King Lin could directly absorb the energy in the bodies of the snake creatures she controlled, and naturally made rapid progress. One day later, they stopped to rest in a secluded place. King Lin was sitting cross-legged with her eyes closed, breathing in and out. Gu was originally observing her practice state, and suddenly, his brows frowned slightly, because he sensed that not far away, there was a Huang breath approaching. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55. Someone from the Heavenly Snake Mansion wants to take King Lin away. Brother Gu, what's wrong? Looking at Gu's expression, Xiao asked in surprise. She guessed in her heart that Gu might have sensed someone approaching. Someone is rushing towards us. Gu's rather relaxed tone made Xiao feel much more at ease. Who could it be? Xiao looked at the distant horizon curiously. At this time, King Lin opened her eyes, with a slightly strange expression, because she just clearly sensed that the breath coming from afar seemed to be somewhat close to her bloodline. LV man has a surprised emotion, and the emotion value increases by 15. Then, she set her sights on the purple crystal-winged Lion King in front of the 3 people. LV man acted a little surprised, and his voice was ethereal. After a while, a light blue figure slowly emerged from the horizon in front of the 3 people. Therefore, she instinctively protected King Lin behind her and stared at the suspicious LV man vigilantly. Feeling the aura of this person's cultivation, Gu guessed that the identity of this woman was probably LV man from the Sky Snake Mansion. Hearing this, Xiao immediately understood that this woman was probably after King Lin's green snake tricolor pupil. No matter what, she couldn't stop her from wanting to take King Lin away. It's indeed green snake tricolor pupil. It seems that Bio's perception is correct. I didn't expect that someone in the Jiama Empire would actually have a 6th order flying magic beast. However, the exquisite and delicate body under the green clothes made people know that the woman's appearance might not be too bad. Her eyes met King Lin's gaze, and she noticed the 3 small black dots in King Lin's pupils. She nodded with satisfaction and a smile on her lips. In the sky, Lu Man moved lightly and moved closer, staring at King Lin closely. She knew that the 3 boys and girls below could have 6th order flying magic beasts, so they must have some background. The young man in the lead seemed to be quite capable, but that was all. Hearing this, Lu Man looked at King Lin, who was hiding behind Yan with interest, and chuckled meaningfully. Haha, this little girl is called King Lin. What a nice name, King Lin. Be careful. The next moment, Lu Man flashed and came close to Gu and the other 2. After all, that was something that the entire Tench Mansion desired. Although the green veil on the cheek of this green-clothed woman concealed her appearance, Lu Man guessed in her heart that the owner of this 6th-level magic beast was probably the young man standing beside him. He might have some magic weapon on him, but she couldn't see through his cultivation. Don't worry, I came here with no ill intentions, I just want to take her to a place that is more suitable for her to practice. The forces behind me will do their best to cultivate her." As soon as Lu Man finished speaking, he waved his white hand, and the originally hard ground under the feet of the three people suddenly burst open. Immediately, countless wide green tree trunks emerged from the ground. Then, they entangled with each other like lightning, and in the blink of an eye, they formed two wooden prisons, tightly locking Gu Fei and Xiao Yan inside. These countless tree trunks deliberately avoided the frightened King Lin, and did not affect her at all. The purple crystal-winged Lion King reacted quickly and rushed over when Lu Man made a move. It flapped its wings, and its huge body smashed towards Lu Man like a meteor. The power of the monster's physical body was too strong. If it was really hit by the Lion King, even a Huang strongman would lose a layer of skin. Lu Man reacted quickly. She flashed quickly and lightly shook off the purple crystal-winged Lion King who came to intercept. Then, she went straight to King Lin. However, just as Lu Man approached King Lin and was about to succeed, an inexplicable dangerous sword descended on her body. Bang! Only a slight sound was heard, and Gu Fei, who was originally trapped in the wooden prison, appeared beside King Lin at some point, looking at her with deep eyes. How could this happen? LV Man becomes panicked. Emotional value increases by 15, seeing that Gu Fei, a teenager, had actually broken through her blockade in an instant. Lu Man's calm face under the veil showed a trace of panic. Her hand that was stretched out to King Lin was also slapped away by Gu Fei lightly. Lu Man didn't hold back any strength just now, and used all her strength, but was actually slapped away by Gu Fei. Feeling the huge force displayed by Gu Fei's casual slap just now, Lu Man was full of fear. LV Man becomes fearful. Emotional value increases by 15. What on earth is going on? She was confused and doubtful, and began to doubt Gu Fei's strength. However, the temptation brought by the green snake's three flower pupils made her prefer to take risks. We are in the Jiama Empire now. We can't show off our strength. It's better to fight quickly. Lu Man thought that she not only had to face Gu Fei, a mysterious and powerful man, but also had the purple crystal-winged Lion King to assist her. Although it was only a 6th-level magic beast, it should not be underestimated, not to mention that she had never been able to see through Gu Fei's cultivation. So, she took out a whistle without hesitation and blew it quickly. Suddenly, a slightly sharp whistle sounded, carrying a strange sound wave, spreading out from the sky. Boom! Not long after the whistle sounded, a roar suddenly sounded in the distant forest. Immediately, a huge beast that was nearly 10 feet long, originally resting leisurely, opened its eyes after hearing this strange whistle, and suddenly rose into the sky. It flew towards the sky here, and its huge shadow covered a large area of the ground. The beast was extremely slender and looked like a snake-shaped monster. The flying speed of the amethyst-winged Lion King was already amazing enough, and the flying speed of this monster was even more shocking. I saw its huge tail twisting and swinging, and it was like teleporting. After a few flashes, it came from a distance to the vicinity and confronted the amethyst-winged Lion King. Gu Fei stood in front of King Lin, his eyes narrowed, looking at the giant beast that suddenly appeared. It is more appropriate to call it a giant beast or a giant snake. The giant snake is extremely large, and its body is dark. In the darkness, there are colorful lines, which looks quite strange. On both sides of the body of the giant snake, there are 8 wings with purple and black. On the head, there is a dark spiral horn with a faint purple light, flickering at the tip of the horn, which is obviously poisonous. The triangular pupils are not beastly, but filled with a shrewdness and cunning like a human. The arrival of this strange monster, Gu Fei's expression did not change at all. Since you have no ill will towards King Lin, I will give you a chance to disappear immediately, otherwise. Gu Fei's expressionless voice made Lu Man hesitate again for a moment. Lu Man has a hesitant emotion, and the emotion value increases by 15. She stared at Gu Fei in a tangled way, glancing to the side from time to time. Over there, the purple crystal-winged Lion King had already faced off against the 8-winged Black Snake King. The battle between the two 6th-level monsters was very shocking, and the fighting aura spread very far. This aura? At this time, in the sky hundreds of miles away, an old man sitting on a huge flying monster suddenly opened his eyes, and his sharp eyes with a gleam of light shot towards the battlefield between the purple crystal-winged Lion King and the 8-winged Black Snake King. The identity of the old man was Jia Xingchen, who had left the imperial capital before. The battle between the purple crystal-winged Lion King and the 8-winged Black Snake King generated a battle fluctuation that Jia Xingchen could feel even hundreds of miles away. As soon as he noticed it, Jia Xingchen hurriedly told Yao Yi a few words behind him, and then flew alone and broke away from the flying monster. Chapter 56. How much face can the Tansh mansion have? The huge bodies of the purple crystal-winged Lion King and the 8-winged Black Snake King kept colliding, shining brightly, accompanied by terrifying roars from time to time, and the fluctuations of fighting spirit spread violently. What is this? In the sky somewhere in the eastern province of the Jiama Empire, Yuan, who had not yet returned to the imperial capital, but had separated from Gu Fei and others to act alone, suddenly stopped. The hood on her head had been taken off, revealing a face like a hibiscus. Her eyelashes trembled, and her clear eyes looked towards the sky over there. Of course, she also noticed the fluctuations, and the inexplicable emotions in her heart drove Yuan to rush over there. I have given you a chance before. This is what you asked for. Since you insist on not leaving, don't regret it. Lu Man has a gentle face, and under the pitiful skin, his mind is deep. She realized that Gu Fei was not easy to mess with, but she also had helpers, so why should she be afraid of a mere half-grown boy? Lu Man blinked his eyes, and his body turned and flew. With brisk steps, he was about to bypass Gu Fei. He stretched out a jade hand and grabbed King Lin, who was hiding behind him. King Lin was startled by Lu Man's sudden action, and tightened his grip on Gu Fei's sleeve. The 8-winged Black Snake King has fear and panic emotions, and the emotional value increases by 15. King Lin has dependence emotions, and the emotional value increases by 70. What kind of existence did she provoke? Gu Fei hugged King Lin's waist and easily avoided Lu Man. There was a complete horror in his huge triangular pupils. The 8-winged Black Snake King has horror and anger emotions, and the emotional value increases by 15. Seeing the miserable and embarrassed appearance of the 8-winged Black Snake King, Lu Man's heart was like falling into the abyss, and his face was pale. Under the broken scales of the 8-winged Black Snake King, the horrible scars visible to the naked eye spread out, almost covering its entire back body. Seeing that Lu Man was still making trouble, Gu Fei, no matter how good his temper was a little angry at this time. Green Barbarian has panic emotion. Emotional value increased by 20. Looking from the ground, it seems that the white bones can still be seen faintly. Senior, please spare my life. This light palm hit the 8-winged Black Snake King seriously. She was not afraid. After all, Brother Gu Fei was always able to protect her. It was like this before, and it would definitely be the same now. It roared in pain and stared at Gu Fei. The blood was like rain, dripping from the air and falling to the ground, which was shocking. On its dark body, the bright red blood kept seeping out. The 8-winged Black Snake King looked at Gu Fei with some fear in his human eyes, full of fear. At this time, the 8-winged Black Snake King relied on its extremely fast speed and overly hard body to have the upper hand. At this moment, the hard scales on the 8-winged Black Snake King's body were completely broken by nearly half. Gu Fei saw that the Lion King was at a disadvantage in the battle, so he raised his hand and sent out a stream of energy. When the energy hit the side of the 8-winged Black Snake King, it reacted and could no longer dodge. I was blind and offended the senior. I will leave with the 8-winged Black Snake King immediately. Please don't blame me. The next moment, Lu Man lowered her posture and begged Gu Fei for forgiveness. She glanced at Gu Fei, and seeing his expressionless face, her breathing trembled. Lu Man is nervous, and the emotion value increases by 15. Next, Lu Man tried every way to explain. Senior, I came here this time, actually without any bad intentions. I just want to take this little girl King Lin back, and I just want to train her well. She has the green snake 3-flower pupils, which is very suitable for training in my Heavenly Snake Mansion. The Heavenly Snake Mansion will give her the best resources. Lu Man continued to explain. She carefully raised her eyes and looked at Gu Fei, and her originally delicate and gentle face was only left with fear. Green Man feels panic. Emotional value increases by 15. The eight-winged Black Snake King also fell to the ground early, and followed behind Green Man in a panic. It suppressed its injuries, nodded repeatedly to agree with Green Man's words, and also begged for mercy from Gu Fei. Gu Fei's calm eyes fell on Green Man and the eight-winged Black Snake King, but it brought a strong sense of oppression. I know all this, otherwise, you two would have no chance to continue standing and talking, Gu Fei said calmly. Green Man feels relaxed. Emotional value increases by 15. Seeing Gu Fei's words, Green Man was relieved. Then, she continued, Senior, please let us go for the sake of the Heavenly Snake Mansion. At this moment, Green Man and the eight-winged Black Snake King no longer regarded Gu Fei as a teenager. They just thought that Gu Fei should be an old senior who had the skill to keep his youth. Therefore, they did not dare to take action again, and only hoped that Gu Fei would let them go for the sake of the Heavenly Snake Mansion. Gu Fei raised his eyebrows, sneered contemptuously, and his eyes turned cold. Heavenly Snake Mansion? This Heavenly Snake Mansion has no face in my place. When Lu Man mentioned the Heavenly Snake Mansion, Gu Fei didn't buy it at all. With his status, the Lord of the Heavenly Snake Mansion would have to greet him. Lu Man's heart suddenly lifted, and the strong premonition of danger made her scalp numb, and she couldn't help but step back. The next moment, Gu Fei waved his sleeves, and a wave of fighting spirit was directed at Lu Man, and it suddenly hit her body at a speed that could not be detected by the naked eye. Bang! Lu Man's right arm instantly exploded into a bloody mist. Ah! Lu Man covered the stump of his arm that was constantly oozing blood, let out a shrill scream, and sweated coldly. Lu Man has fear, and the emotion value increases by 15. At this time, she was no longer calm and arrogant at the beginning. The delicate dress on her body was stained with filth and blood. This is a small lesson for offending me. If you do it again, I will destroy your Heavenly Snake Mansion, Gu Fei said coldly. Although one of her arms was cut off, Lu Man did not dare to feel any resentment. She was just glad that she could escape death this time. Lu Man has emotions of relief and shock, and the emotion value increases by 15. She was also very shocked. She couldn't help but wonder who Gu Fei was. He didn't even take the dignified Heavenly Snake Mansion seriously. Lu Man bent down tremblingly. Thank you for not killing me. Hearing Gu Fei's faint hum, Lu Man and the eight-winged Black Snake King dared to drag their injured bodies away. Although their speed was not as fast as when they came, they did not dare to stop at all, for fear that if they stayed any longer, Gu Fei would change his mind and kill them. King Lin has emotions of trust, and the emotion value increases by 70. Dao Yixian has emotions of trust, and the emotion value increases by 100. Dao Yixian and King Lin were both protected by Gu Fei behind him and were unharmed. Brother Gu Fei, with you here, I feel that no matter what danger I encounter, I can overcome it. Suddenly, Dao Yixian couldn't help but hugged Gu Fei's arm. Chapter 57 Yao Yi? No one has ever dared to look down on me like this. Seeing Lu Man and the eight-winged Black Snake King leave in disgrace, the two women breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, in their eyes, Gu Fei seemed to be invincible. Brother Gu Fei, you are so powerful. King Lin had faced Lu Man's attack directly, and naturally felt the terrifying pressure from her. But such a master was easily scared away by Gu Fei. In King Lin's eyes, Gu Fei was the strongest person. Her eyes were shining, her cheeks flushed, and she praised Gu Fei generously. Gu Fei touched King Lin's head with a smile, and glanced at the little medical fairy, who also smiled faintly at him. He took out a healing pill from the ring and gave it to the purple crystal-winged Lion King. The Lion King looked at Gu Fei silently, took off the pill, and put it in his mouth. Thank you, Master. Thinking of Gu Fei, Yuan had an elegant smile on her face, but she felt a little melancholy in her heart. The breath of Gu Fei remained on this battlefield. At the same time, Yuan guessed that this incident should be caused by Gu Fei, and the woman beside him was also eye-catching. King Lin and Dao Yixian responded, so Gu Fei did not stay there any longer. The stream of light dissipated, and the figures of an old man and a woman appeared. Jia Lao's mountain-breaking fighting spirit is getting more and more domineering. Yuan can feel that domineering aura from a distance. The three sat on the back of the purple crystal-winged Lion King again, looking at the elegant and noble woman in brocade robes. The old man's eyes flashed and laughed. The fluctuations here don't seem to have happened for too long, and the people fighting haven't gone far. Sect Master Yan, are you interested in following me to catch up and take a look? Let's go. After taking this pill, the purple crystal winged Lion King's aura quickly returned to normal. Haha, Sect Master Yan, I haven't seen you for a few years. Your wind-type fighting spirit has become more and more refined. At this speed, I can't catch up. Rather than saying that the gorgeous brocade robe sets off the beauty, it is better to say that the beauty's cold and nobleness adds a bit of beauty to the brocade robe. The woman in the brocade robe is Yan. At this moment, she smiled and responded to Jia Xingqian, because as soon as she arrived here, she sensed a very familiar and nostalgic breath. The woman was wearing a tight golden and purple brocade robe. Her 3,000 black hair was tied into the shape of a phoenix's long cry, and she faintly revealed a nobleness that was difficult to conceal. Among them, an old man was wearing an ordinary yellow suit. He looked like a child with white hair, but he had a sense of elegance. When he glanced at her, he was quite majestic. Jia Xingqian thought for a moment, and did not notice Yan's distraction, and then he made an invitation. 10 minutes later, 2 sounds of breaking through the air were heard here, and 2 streams of light flashed. Her face was peaceful and beautiful, like a clear spring in a secluded mountain. While people were in awe of her noble status, they could not help but have a little bit of amorous thoughts. If the 2 of them went together, they would be able to protect themselves even if they ran into the 2 warring parties head-on. If Yan was willing to go together, it would be the best. Jia Lao, Yan will not join in the excitement. Although Yan also wanted to see Gu Fei, she knew that even if she met Gu Fei at this moment, it would only add to her troubles and would not have any results at all, so it would be better not to meet him. So, she refused Jia Xingqian. Jia Xingqian was rejected by Yan bluntly, but he did not change his expression, but just shrugged. Then I will go alone to find out what's going on. Master Yan, I'll say goodbye. After saying goodbye to Yan, Jia Xingqian chose to chase Gu Fei alone in the direction he left. If he was not afraid of potential danger, Jia Xingqian would naturally want to protect himself and not join in the excitement. However, he was the guardian of the royal family. When a strange strong man appeared in the empire, he naturally had to find out clearly, so as to ensure the stability of the empire. At the same time, Gu Fei and the other 2 were riding on the purple crystal-winged Lion King. Gu Fei was chatting with Xiao and King Lin. He smiled heartily, but then frowned. Gu Fei sensed that there was a 4th-level flying magic beast in the distance, carrying a lot of people, flying towards them. If Gu Fei did not avoid it by himself, the purple crystal-winged Lion King's flight path would soon collide with Tianyi's flying magic beast head-on. The 4th-level flying magic beast of the royal family was originally flying conscientiously, but at this moment, it suddenly sensed the powerful aura of the purple crystal-winged Lion King, and suddenly felt a little scared, and even the flying speed naturally slowed down. What's the situation? Noticing that the flying magic beast seemed to be trembling, Yi suddenly became a little alert. She looked around without stopping for a moment, and several guards also stayed beside her, ready to deal with potential dangers at any time. Not long after, the huge figure of the amethyst-winged Lion King suddenly appeared in Yao's sight. The figure was too huge. Even the well-informed Yi was blank for a moment, not to mention the guards beside her. She lifted the hem of her palace dress, stood up, squinted in the direction of the amethyst-winged Lion King, and the straight back and elegant arms, the noble temperament were all visible. The information is correct. It is actually a 6th-order flying magic beast. Seeing the huge beast, Yi was prepared in her heart, but she was still surprised. But this emotion only appeared for a short moment. After all, as the heir to the royal family, Yi's whole heart is for the royal family. A 6th-order flying magic beast suddenly appeared and acted wantonly in the territory of the Jiama Empire. Although Tianyi didn't know its purpose, she was certainly worried that it would endanger the empire. So, Tianyi ordered the flying magic beasts to move at full speed and blocked the route of the amethyst-winged Lion King without fear. As the amethyst-winged Lion King stopped, Tianyi's eyes flashed, and he finally saw Gu Fei and the other 2 on its back. What do you want? Gu Fei was on his way, and when he saw this flying magic beast blocking the way, he couldn't help but frown and asked, You should not be from my GMA Empire, right? Looking at Goof's unfamiliar face, Yi asked tentatively. Goof looked at her steadily and nodded gently. Yi hesitated for a moment, then rolled up the hair on her forehead, revealing a complete, noble and elegant face. The narrow and gentle beautiful eyes looked at Goof softly. Then I wonder why you came to the GMA Empire this time? Yi continued to ask. Goof frowned, and then replied lightly, what does this have to do with you? Immediately, Yi's gentle face changed. Of course, her weak appearance just now was pretended, just to reduce Goof's vigilance. As the eldest princess of the empire, Yi has great power in the GMA Empire. Although it cannot be said that she can cover the sky with one hand, she also has a strong voice. It was the first time that she was despised like this, and she was immediately unhappy and frowned. Yi has a dissatisfied emotion, and the emotion value increases by 50. The two looked at each other in silence, and the scene fell into silence for a short time. Suddenly, a rapid sound of breaking through the air sounded, and Jia Xingxin's figure came from behind. Chapter 58. Another beauty. Jia Xingxin had white hair and wrinkles on his face. He looked old and frail, like an ordinary old man who was about to die. However, the fighting wings spread out behind him clearly showed his identity. It seems that this person is Jia Xingxin. With the arrival of Jia Xingxin, Goof also understood that if he did not show some strength, the grandfather and grandson would definitely be entangled. After all, he was restrained, not always pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. At this moment, Goof and Jia Xingxin's eyes met, and the other party was looking at him cautiously. Even Jia Xingxin was a little afraid of such a behemoth as the purple crystal-winged Lion King. Moreover, he carefully sensed Goof's breath, but he could not figure out Goof's depth, so he did not dare to express his position rashly. Suddenly, Goof's eyes condensed, and a huge pressure descended on Jia Xingxin's body. Jia Xingxin has a shocked emotion, and the emotion value increases by 30. King Lin, who was standing aside, heard it and his eyes sparkled. Jia Xingxin was stiff for a moment, and was shocked. He didn't expect that the young man in front of him would be so terrifying. Even he, a peaked Huang figure, was far inferior to him. I wonder if you are willing to be a guest in the imperial capital, so that I can do my best to be a good host. Jia Xingxin looked at the three people and one beast opposite him, and his mind turned, and he had an idea. The two people's eyes met for a moment, and then they both fell on Goof. King Lin stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, Grandpa is so polite to this person. Is this person very powerful? She bit her lip and couldn't help but regret that she was too anxious just now. For a young man with an extraordinary background, even if Grandpa is wary, he will definitely only be polite on the surface and won't be so serious. At this time, Jia Xingxin did not doubt Goof's real age. Sister Xiao Yan, now that you mention it, I also want to go to the imperial capital to have a look. I have been in the desert since I was born, and I have never seen how prosperous the imperial capital of an empire is. However, he has not been to the imperial capital of the Jayama Empire. Little medical fairy poked her head out from behind Goof, her hair brushing against his shoulders, with a hint of curiosity in her eyes. He already regarded Goof as a young man from a powerful force who had come out to gain experience, and had the idea of making friends with him. Little medical fairy tugged at Goof's sleeve, while King Lin looked at him eagerly. The imperial capital? I've never been there. What would it be like? Jia Xingxin said with a smile, inviting Goof. Yi feels shocked and regretful, and her emotion value increases by 50. Yi was extremely surprised. It was the first time she saw her grandfather being so respectful to a young man. Even if the other party had an extraordinary background, he was still a junior after all. The next moment, Jia Xingxin thought that Yi's expression just now might be due to some misunderstanding with the other party, so he said politely, Sir, I am Jia Xingxin, and this is my granddaughter Yi. If she has offended you just now, please forgive me. During this period, following Goof, she walked out of Kingshan town and went to many big cities, and saw many new and strange cultural landscapes. King Lin has a pleading emotion, and the emotion value increases by 70. Xiao Yan has a pleading emotion, and the emotion value increases by 100. Gu shook his head helplessly and knocked on the heads of the two people one by one with a funny look. "Okay, let's go to the imperial capital." Then, Gu smiled and nodded. Now Yixian feels excited, and her emotion value increases by 100. King Lin feels happy, and her emotion value increases by 70. Since both girls want to go, and Gu is very casual about these things, a trip to the imperial capital will not affect his practice. Seeing Gu's agreement, Jia Xingchen remained calm on the surface, but he was very happy in his heart. Jia Xingchen feels satisfied, and his emotion value increases by 40. Next, Gu and Jia Xingchen headed towards the imperial capital together. Jia Xingchen had been observing secretly, and the more he watched, the more frightened he became. Gu's strength is probably much stronger than his. When encountering monsters on the road, Jia Xingchen often just started to be alert, and the monsters were scared away by the breath released by Gu. With more and more contacts, Jia Xingchen guessed that Gu might be a Zong powerhouse. Jia Xingchen feels yearning, and his emotion value increases by 40. In his life, Jia Xingchen's biggest wish, besides consolidating the rule of the Jiama royal family, is to break through to the Zong level. So, along the way, he kept a very low profile, trying to get an opportunity to break through to the Zong level from Gu. If Gu had any needs, Jia Xingchen would personally help them. His amiable appearance would make other people drop their jaws if they saw it. Jia Lao, a Huang who was a master of the Jiama Empire, was so enthusiastic towards a few young people. Now Yixian and King Lin also learned about the identities of Jia Xingchen and Tan. However, they did not react much to their royal identities. King Lin also secretly said to Gu with pride, "Brother Gu, you are so amazing, even the royal family has to please you." King Lin has admiration. Emotional value increased by 70. Gu smiled and touched her head, then glanced at Zhao Yixian, and said slowly, "The destination of our trip is the palace of the Jiama Empire." Zhao Yixian and King Lin looked at each other, unable to suppress the excitement in their eyes. Although they did not yearn for the royal family, they were still innocent little girls after all. Naturally, they would dream of being princesses in their hearts, and they also wanted to see what the palace looked like. On the way, Zhao Yixian and King Lin chatted happily, and soon arrived at the imperial capital. Afterwards, Jia Xingchen arranged for Gu and the other two to live in the palace with the highest hospitality etiquette, and also instructed Yao to accompany the guests well. The next day, after Zhao Yixian and King Lin woke up, they planned to go out for a walk to see the prosperity of the imperial capital, and Gu naturally followed. And Yao, who was very concerned about their whereabouts, saw that several people were going out, and the princess, who had a bad temper when they first met, also obediently accompanied them and followed the three people. In the city, several people walked to the outside of the Mitel auction house. At the door of the luxurious and atmospheric auction house, many people in gorgeous clothes came in and out, with a faint fragrance as their clothes fluttered. Seeing such a grand auction house, Zhao Yixian tugged at Gu's sleeve. "Brother Gu, I want to go inside the auction house and take a look." Gu nodded and looked at Yi beside him inquiringly. Yi, dressed in a palace dress, walked forward with a smile and made a few simple negotiations. The ladies welcoming guests at the door straightened up and led them in very solemnly. Not long after they entered the auction house, a charming and seductive figure slowly appeared in front of everyone, attracting countless eyes. This woman, with a slightly smiling face, was charming. She was wearing a bright red tight brocade robe. The noble brocade robe was gorgeously made and perfectly outlined the woman's beautiful curves. Under the woman's brocade robe, the dazzling white long legs made the man feel a fiery impulse in his heart. Chapter 59 Nellen Yanren, Teacher, do you know who has the strange fire that can save my grandfather? What a beauty! Seeing this enchanting woman appear in his sight, even Gu sighed in his heart. Although this woman's appearance is not absolutely beautiful, her seductive attributes are full. This woman's special attributes, coupled with her appearance in the Mitel auction house, therefore, Gu does not need to guess her identity. Yev greets Her Royal Highness the Princess. Yev knew Yi. She came here and saluted Yi with a sweet smile. Immediately, Her eyes fell generously on Gu Fei, who was sitting quietly beside her. Yif could see that this group of people was vaguely led by Gu Fei, and even the Princess Xiao Yan was just an accompanying role. Her ability to read people's expressions was very outstanding. In addition, the news sent back to the imperial capital last night, Yif immediately guessed that Gu Fei was the distinguished guest invited back by the royal family this time. So, next, Yif was also very polite to show her goodwill to Gu Fei. This young man, if there is anything you like, please tell me. She moved her lotus step slightly, walked to Gu Fei's side, and made a tingling sound. This woman was full of charm and allure. Under the gaze of her narrow peach blossom eyes, Gu Fei's heartbeat was also confused for a moment. Yif's every frown and smile showed her feminine charm, which made Gu Fei sigh that this woman was as seductive as a cat. She was a beauty that few men could resist. Although this woman was inferior to Queen Medusa overall, she was more proactive than Queen Medusa. She was extremely good at grasping men's preferences. HMPH. Seeing Yif like this, Dao Yixian snorted in her heart, as if she was a little unhappy, and then took Gu Fei's hand and walked away. Seeing this scene, Yif had to smile awkwardly and dared not say much. Next, when walking in the auction house, Gu Fei said to Dao Yixian and King Lin lovingly, "Whatever you like, just buy it. Anyway, what you like is the most important." It was the first time for the two little girls to see such a market. When they heard this, their eyes were sparkling. They walked along the way, staring at the glittering treasures without blinking, and Gu Fei took them one by one to pay. However, when it was time to pay, Yao Yi said first, "Mr. Gu Fei, just put these on my account." Hearing this, Gu Fei did not fight with her, as he did not care about these worldly things. After visiting the auction house, Dao Yixian and King Lin were still a little reluctant to leave. That night, Jia Xingchen even arranged a party for Gu Fei. The guests invited to the party were all the wealthy and powerful people in the Jiama Empire. They all received Jia Xingchen's invitation and understood that this was a party specially held for royal guests, so they were fully prepared. Gu Fei hesitated for a moment after receiving Jia Xingchen's invitation, and then thought of the excitement of the two of them visiting the auction during the day, so he decided to take Dao Yixian and King Lin to participate. This was to broaden their horizons and experience this kind of life that they had never tried before. Party, great, I want to go too. Dao Yixian had no objection and happily agreed. She and King Lin prepared clothes for the party. Yao's gorgeous and elegant palace dress certainly left a deep impression on them. Dao Yixian didn't say it on her face, but she had a vague idea of competing in her heart. King Lin was concentrating on choosing beautiful clothes. In the evening, the banquet started on time. At the banquet, Mu Chen, the head of the Mu family, Nelin Su, the head of the Nelin family, Tang Shan, the head of the Maitel family, and others appeared one after another. The three old guys smiled at each other and clinked their glasses. Their purpose was self-evident. As Gu Fei walked into the banquet hall, everyone's eyes looked over. "Mr. Gu Fei, you are here." Yao and Jia Xingchen, the grandfather and grandson, came over and greeted him with a smile. Tonight, Yao was dressed very formally, with a light rouge on her lips. The beauty had red lips and white teeth, and her faint smile was very charming. At the banquet, everyone looked at Gu Fei. Seeing the serious attitude of Jia Xingchen and Tan, they all knew that the person in front of them was extraordinary. They all knew that Gu Fei was the most important guest of the party today. Mu Chen has a curious emotion, and his emotion value increases by 30. Nelin Su, Gu Fei swept his eyes through the crowd, and a beautiful girl suddenly came into his sight. This girl looked very cold and beautiful, and her beautiful and delicate face seemed to be no worse than the woman who had disappointed Gu Fei. She was wearing a moon-white robe with wide sleeves and tights that trailed on the ground. A light silver belt was tied around her willow waist, which just showed her slender waist perfectly. There was a green jade pendant hanging on her delicate earlobe. When it was shaken slightly, it made a crisp jade sound, and suddenly showed a touch of delicacy. She was caught off guard by Gu Fei's sight, with a hint of undisguised curiosity in her eyes. Nilin Yanren is curious, and her emotion value increases by 80. Gu Fei basically knows the identity of the people present through the emotion value prompted by the system. This time, After Nilan Yanran digested the pill given to her by Yun Yun and broke through to the great fighting master, she hurried down from Yunlin Mountain, with the purpose of finding an alchemist who could detoxify her grandfather Nilan Ji. In the early years, Nilan Ji was bitten by a snake-like monster, the branding poison seal python, when he was fighting with it, and was poisoned by the brand snake. The brand poison is extraordinary. According to records, there are many 6th-level monsters that were poisoned to death by the branding poison seal Mangyu level. If it were not for the fact that the number of them is so rare that it can be ignored, I am afraid that many people on the mainland would be terrified. Although Nilanji took measures to slow down the spread of the toxin, there is no cure. The Nilan family can only watch Nilanji weaken day by day, and it seems that he is in danger. However, in the imperial capital, even Master Fama, the president of the Alchemist Guild, was powerless. According to Dan Wang Guhi, a strange fire was needed to cure Nilanji's poison. Nilan Yanran's curiosity about Gu Fei was quickly suppressed by her worry about her grandfather. She was in a bad mood, so she found a place outside the banquet hall to sit down and drink alone. She did not surround and approach Gu Fei like other powerful women in the empire. Teacher, why are you here? After a while, Nilan Yanran, who was sitting outside the banquet hall drinking alone, found that her teacher Yun Yun had also come. It turned out that Yun Yun had also heard about the royal family inviting Gu Fei back in Yunlin sect, and also knew that Gu Fei was going to attend this dinner. After struggling for a while, she finally couldn't help it and planned to come here to see Gu Fei. Tonight, Yun Yun's dressing style was different from the past. Like ordinary noble women, she wore a relatively cool evening dress, showing a different charm. The elegant white color set off Yun Yun's temperament even more outstanding. The softness she showed neutralized her coldness and made her look more attractive. Teacher, what should I do? Grandpa is lying in bed now, in critical condition. Even Master Fama can't do anything. Nilan Yanran drank and couldn't hide her mood at all. She told her teacher Yun Yun about her grandfather. She looked sad and choked up. After listening, Yun Yun was silent for a moment, then raised her eyebrows slightly. A trace of emotion flashed in her beautiful eyes, and asked, Yanran, did Gu He really say that as long as there is a strange fire, your grandfather can be cured? Her eyes unconsciously looked at Gu Fei, who was surrounded by people in the hall. Gu Fei was smiling lightly, full of youthful spirit, and Yun Yun's heartbeats could not help but speed up a little. Teacher, do you know who has a strange fire? Nilan Yanran heard her words and reacted very quickly. She sobered up a lot and asked in surprise. Chapter 60. Sorry, Miss Nilan, I'm not interested. Yun Yun hesitated for a moment, then lightly tapped her snow-white chin. Great, this way, Grandpa can be saved. Teacher, who is the person with the strange fire? After getting Yun Yun's confirmation, Nilan Yanran stood up and asked excitedly. The protagonist of today's banquet. Yun Yun's eyes moved and whispered. The protagonist of the banquet. Nilan Yanran followed Yun Yun's gaze and happened to see Gu Fei in the hall. The young man was dressed in a brocade robe, with a warm smile on his face. He was tall and graceful, with handsome eyebrows and eyes. Nilan Yanran turned away as soon as she looked at him at the party. At this time, she followed Yun Yun's words and looked at Gu Fei again. At the same time, she vaguely realized that there seemed to be something wrong with the way her teacher looked at Gu Fei. Teacher, do you know him? Nilan Yanran asked curiously. I have seen him in the magical Beast Mountain range. The elixir that I brought back to you before was made by him. Hearing Nilan Yanran's words, Yun Yun's expression changed slightly again, and she said slowly, so that elixir was made by him. I always thought that you, Master, asked Elder Gu He to make it. Hearing this, Nilan Yanran was even more surprised. Nilan Yanran is surprised, and her emotion value increases by 80. Her knowledge of Gu Fei only stayed on the rumors of the high-level officials in the imperial capital. Knowing that Gu Fei has a 6th-level magic beast, his origin is very extraordinary. He must have come out of a big force to gain experience. Unexpectedly, Gu Fei was so young that he could refine a 4th-grade peak elixir. With such talent, no one in the Jiama Empire can compare with him. His talent for refining medicine is so high, and he also has a strange fire. It seems that Grandpa can really be saved. Thinking that Gu Fei could save her grandfather, Nilan Yanran was immediately very happy, and her eyes were shining when she looked at Goof. "Grandpa will become weaker if he is tortured by the branding poison for one more day. We can't delay any longer. No matter what she says today, she has to ask Goof to come." Next, Xun'er walked directly into the banquet hall and walked towards Goof. Yuan sat in the same place, holding her chin with one hand, and looked at the back of the girl who hurried away with her skirt lifted up with complicated eyes. How she wanted to be like Yanran, to go directly to see Goof. Yuan feels melancholy, and the mood value increases by 100. "Hello, Mr. Goof." Yanran walked into the banquet hall, walked to Goof, rolled up the broken hair at the temples, and took the initiative to greet Goof. There was a soft smile on her exquisite face, and the wide-sleeved moon-white dress on her body, which was only worn by the disciples of Yunlin sect, occasionally highlighted the graceful curves underneath. In terms of figure comparison, she seemed to be no less than Yif, but their temperaments were completely different. Although Yanran took the initiative to strike up a conversation, the arrogance between her eyebrows and eyes was not restrained at all. Goof nodded and glanced at her lightly. There were too many people who came to greet him at the banquet, so his reaction was very flat. "Mr. Goof, my name is Yanran." Yanran did not leave after greeting. Her face flushed slightly and she continued to introduce herself. "Is there anything you need?" Hearing this, Goof tilted his head and asked casually. His voice was very flat. Goof's reaction gave Yanran a headache. Yanran is nervous. Emotional value increases by 80. With the reputation of the young master of Yunlin sect and the genius girl of the Nelin family, she has always been successful outside. If she needs help from others, she always takes the initiative, and the other party will offer it with both hands. In all these years, Goof is the first person who is so cold to her. "I want to ask you for a favor." If it were any other time, Yanran would have left impatiently, but Goof was the person she knew who had the best chance of saving Nilan, so she couldn't let him go. Yanran said with a smile. No matter how indifferent Goof's reaction was, she always kept a smile on her face. No young man in the Jiama Empire had ever been able to make her so eager to do something that was not well received. "Miss Nilan, let's talk about these things after the banquet, so as not to affect Master Goof's mood." At this moment, a numbing voice sounded, and it turned out that it was Yif who came over with a wine glass. Her soft eyes fell on Goof. She smiled sweetly. Her beautiful eyes were flying. She raised her wine glass and clinked it with his, and then raised her neck to drink it. She raised her chin, and the line was even more seductive. Goof also integrated into the banquet, smiled and clinked glasses with her and drank the wine in the glass. On the other side, the empire's eldest princess Xiao also came behind Goof with a wine glass. "Sir, Xiao offers you a drink." Xiao's face is dignified and generous, with curved red lips and a noble look between her eyebrows. Her appearance is comparable to that of Yif next to her. Seeing Goof surrounded by so many people, Yanran hesitated for a moment. She also felt that she was not familiar with Goof, and now was not the right time to ask for help, so she simply did not say anything, but immersed herself in the banquet to get familiar with him. These famous women in the imperial capital are usually very cold, but at this banquet tonight, most of them took the initiative to approach Goof. Even the eldest princess Xiao and Yanran were no exception. Not far from Goof, Xiao looked at the behavior of these women and suddenly regretted coming to such a banquet. She frowned, looked at Goof surrounded by beauties, and looked at the night view outside the window depressedly. Xiao has regretful emotions. Emotional value increased by 100. Outside the banquet hall, Yuan just watched this scene calmly, but resisted the impulse and did not step forward, because she knew that she was older than Goof. If she behaved like those younger generations, she would be laughed at. Soon, Yanran drank a little too much, and her face turned slightly red. At this time, she was standing beside Goof, looking at him with a dazed look. She suddenly stretched out a hand and held Goof's hand directly. "Mr. Goof, I heard from Master that you have a strange fire. Can you save my grandfather? My grandfather has been poisoned for a long time. If he is not treated, I am afraid he will not be able to hold on for long." Speaking of her grandfather, Yanran's face showed some sadness. and the strength of holding Guf's wrist increased a little. But soon, she woke up and found that her behavior was a little inappropriate. Her pretty face blushed, so she quickly let go of Guf's hand. Birth, aging, illness and death are normal. I have no relationship with your grandfather. Why should I save him? Guf knew Nan Yanren's identity, and also knew what kind of person Nanji was. He didn't want to get involved in this muddy water, so he shook his head and refused. Nan Yanren becomes nervous. Emotional value increases by 80. Mr. Guf, as long as you are willing to help, I am willing to pay any reward. Nan Yanren panicked. Her eyes flickered, and she quickly made a condition. Although this condition may be very attractive to others, Guf simply disdained to agree. Sorry, I'm not interested. He stared at Nan Yanren for a while, still shaking his head to refuse. Chapter 61, Sect Master Yuan. Do you feel that you are too old and ugly? Guf refused repeatedly without mercy. Even a thick-skinned person would feel embarrassed at this moment. Moreover, Nan Yanren was not calm enough to begin with. She bit her lip and looked very embarrassed under the gaze of the familiar people around her. Nan Yanren felt uneasy. Emotional value increased by 80, but Guf was her only life-saving straw at the moment. She did not dare to lose her temper in front of him, but just looked at Guf with a wronged look. Facing the scene where the beauty frowned and her eyes seemed to be about to cry, Guf did not change his expression and chatted and laughed with the people around him. He did not even pass a glance over. Nan Yanren, who was completely ignored, was embarrassed and had to frown and run out of the banquet hall in shame. Yuan was still sitting quietly in the same place, and she did not even change her posture. She gently shook the deep red wine in the transparent wine glass. Under the reflection of this color, her cold cheeks looked even more rosy. Nan Yanren flew over like a butterfly and threw herself directly into Yuan's arms. She raised her pretty face, with a blush of shame and anger on it, her eyes slightly red, biting her lower lip tightly, looking very aggrieved. Master, no matter how I humble myself, Master Guf won't agree. What should I do? She murmured, her eyes full of loneliness. Looking at Nan Yanren's state, Yuan felt very distressed. She took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and made a decision. Yuan planned to ask Guf in person, which was also for this apprentice, as a master should do. During the banquet, when people were toasting, there was a sudden sound of battle in the sky of the imperial capital. Guf looked around and found that Jia Xingshan had disappeared long ago. He thought for a moment and realized that Jia Xingshan probably found that Hai Bodong was still alive, so he couldn't help but fight with him. In the dark night sky, several lights and shadows flew by, like shooting stars. Everyone couldn't help but be attracted by the huge battle in the distance and went to watch. It seemed to be in the imperial mausoleum of the imperial capital, which was usually very remote. Unexpectedly, two Duan masters would suddenly appear tonight. There were two huge balls of light in the sky, white and yellow, and the two terrifying orbs were emitted from the two balls of light. The balls of light flexibly flashed and soared, and two figures were looming in the center of the balls of light. Every time the balls of light came into contact, a fierce energy ripple would burst out. The dark night sky was almost completely expelled from the area above the mausoleum, and the light looked like daylight. The white ball of light carried an unparalleled cold aura. Whenever the energy fluctuated, the water vapor in the air around the white ball of light would condense into hard ice. Unlike the white ball of light, the yellow ball of light had a faint sense of solidity and stability like the earth. Haha, old man Bing, I didn't expect that after not seeing you for decades, your strength has not improved but declined. Back then, even I had to be wary of your ice attack, but now its power has greatly decreased. Another fierce collision, and a burst of old laughter came from the yellow light group. HMPH, old monster, you haven't made much progress in these years. And considering your age, it seems that you are about to reach your limit. If you don't break through, I'm afraid the end will come. By then, without your protection, the GMR royal family will not be so comfortable. The figure in the white light group snorted coldly and said, Is it the Ice Emperor? When one person mentioned this name that was once prominent in the GMR Empire, everyone's face changed. Unexpectedly, the Ice Emperor, who had disappeared for so long, was not dead. and could still fight back and forth with Jia Lao. The battle was so exciting for the two of them that Gu Fei naturally had no mood to watch the two fight. Seeing that almost everyone at the banquet had dispersed, he took Xiao Yixian and King Lin back to the palace. He had noticed Xiao Yixian's depressed look early on, so it was a good time to leave first. During this period, Xiao Yixian and King Lin had experienced the life of a rich and noble family that they had never experienced before, and both of them were very happy. After Gu Fei sent them back to their room, he said good night and left. When Gu Fei returned to the room arranged by Jia Xingshan alone, a beautiful figure appeared outside his room. Come in. With his sole perception, the entire palace was taken in by him. Gu Fei had already discovered that someone was following him, and he knew that the person following was Yuan. He waved his hand and the door of the room opened automatically. Gu Fei, we meet again. I didn't expect you to come to the imperial capital. Yuan stood at the door, still wearing the cool evening dress, which made her noble and charming. At this time, she looked up at Gu Fei and greeted him with a complicated expression. Didn't you see it at the banquet just now? Why didn't you come over to say hello when you saw an old friend? Is it a shameful thing for us to know each other? Looking at Yuan, Gu Fei couldn't help but tease. He had received the system's prompt earlier, and after a little perception, he sensed Yuan's presence outside the banquet hall. However, this woman always drinks alone outside, but is unwilling to come in and say hello to him. Yuan feels flustered. Emotional value increases by 100. No, I just think that it is a banquet for young people. Yuan's cheeks flushed slightly, and she explained in a panic. She didn't expect that Gu Fei had already discovered her. Why, Sect Master Yuan, do you feel that you are old and ugly? Gu Fei raised his eyebrows slightly, with a faint smile on his lips, and continued to joke. Gu Fei, do you really think so? Yuan feels lost. Emotional value increases by 100. Hearing this, Yuan's expression was gloomy, and a trace of loneliness flashed across her originally warm eyes. She obviously cared about Gu Fei's opinion of her. Haha, just kidding. Seeing that Yuan took it seriously, Gu Fei hurriedly explained with a smile. How can those young girls compare with you? In my opinion, your beauty and temperament are like a banished fairy visiting the moon. This is indeed the case. Yuan is far superior to those young girls in terms of knowledge and experience. As soon as she appears, the maturity and excellence she naturally exudes can attract everyone's attention. Yuan feels awkward and shy, and her emotion value increases by 100. After saying this, Gu Fei continued, you are here for Nolan Yanran's matter, right? Because of the previous joke, and Gu Fei's praise just now, Yuan looked at Gu Fei with resentment, then bit her red lip slightly, and said hesitantly, Gu Fei, please help Yanran. I know that you have helped me a lot, and my request now is a bit excessive. However, if Yanran's grandfather really died, she would be very sad. She also watched Yanran grow up, and of course she wanted her best. Seeing Yanran so sad, Yuan couldn't bear it. Since you have come forward, I can agree to help once. Gu Fei stared at Yuan for a long time, then nodded and agreed to treat her. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Yuan, what if I really intend to marry you? Thank you, Gu Fei. I really don't know how to thank you. Yuan feels extremely touched. Emotional value increases by 100. Seeing Gu Fei's agreement, Yuan felt a warm current in her heart. Her beautiful eyes glowed, and her cold face had already melted. She understood that she owed Gu Fei too many favors. I say, are you planning to marry me? Looking at Yuan's emotions at the moment, Gu Fei raised the corner of his mouth and couldn't help but joked. The speaker was unintentional, but the listener was intentional. His words made Yuan feel like her heart stopped beating. Yuan feels embarrassed and shy. Emotional value increases by 150. Some blush quickly surged on her pretty cheeks, and her pearly teeth bit her lower lip tightly, revealing a somewhat embarrassed expression again. However, Yuan looked at Gu Fei's slightly raised eyebrows and teasing eyes, and soon realized that Gu was joking. What if I really want to pledge my love to you? Yuan feels anticipation, and her emotion value increases by 100. Yuan mustered up her courage and responded to Gu with a joke for the first time. At the same time, she had an expectation in her heart, expecting Gu's response. If the scene was seen by outsiders, they would be shocked. Yuan is such a person. Her cold and beautiful eyes can never contain any emotion. The stern and arrogant leader of the Yunlin sect would actually say such ambiguous words to a teenager at this time. Looking at Yuan's serious eyes, Gu narrowed his eyes. Okay, no more jokes. I will go to the Nilin family tomorrow morning. He grinned with a youthful spirit and ended the topic so simply. Yuan feels lost, and her emotion value increases by 100. Yuan stiffened up when she didn't get a response. She looked away with some loss, then forced out a smile and said, "Well, I'll talk to Yanran and ask her to be ready." In the middle of the night, Yuan quietly came to Yanran's room and told her that Gu had agreed to treat Ji. "Really? Thank you, teacher." Upon hearing the news, Yanran's eyes instantly turned red, and her heart was full of gratitude. The next morning, Yanran urged Su, and the father and daughter came to wait outside the palace with the guards in the mansion. "This time, it's really thanks to your master's help in pleading, otherwise, your grandfather wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer." Outside the palace, a middle-aged man said to Yanran with a very excited expression, "Well, my intuition tells me that Master Gu must have the ability to cure Grandpa." Yanran nodded. Then, the father and daughter stood outside the gate of the palace, looking very solemn. Soon, Dao Yixian and King Lin followed Gu out of the gate of the palace. Gu had already noticed the Nilin father and daughter waiting outside the palace, and walked over. "Young Master Gu, my father and I are here to take you to the Nilin mansion." Yanran glanced at Gu approaching, her beautiful eyes lit up, and she hurried forward to greet him. Yanran became excited, and her emotion value increased by 80. Afterwards, Gu took Yixian and King Lin and got on the carriage to enter the Nilin mansion. After entering the gate, there was a luxurious hall at the end of the path. Looking through the half-open door, there were servants coming and going in a hurry. "Young Master Gu, Grandpa is in the side room of the hall. Please come this way." Yanran walked in front of Gu at an arm's length and whispered. Slowly approaching the side room, a faint soft light shone out, and Gu gently pushed open the door. The space inside the room is quite large. In the center, there is a big bed, and an old man with a dry face is lying on it. Around the bed, several maids were busying around. Hearing the sound of the door, they cast their eyes over, and then they carefully took care of the unconscious old man again. Slowly approaching the big bed, Gu's eyes swept over the bed, and found that the old man's face was faintly covered with a large area of gray and black, and there was a lot of death on the quiet sleeping face. "It's really a bit serious," Gu whispered, glancing at the old man's face that seemed to have half a foot in the grave. "Yeah, something like branding poison. I'm afraid even a Huang strong man would not dare to touch it easily. The old man has reached his limit to survive so many years." Behind him, Su, who followed closely, sighed and shook his head, then said carefully, "Mr. Gu, do you see any signs of recovery?" At the side, Yanran nodded slightly, her bright eyes fixed on the tall, indifferent young man beside her. Su feels expectant, and his emotion value increases by 30. Yanran feels expectant, and his emotion value increases by 80. In Gu's perception, the branding poison has almost merged with Ji's bones. The bones that should have been warm and white now have an ominous black luster. He frowned and said bluntly, "If an ordinary person uses strange fire to drive out the poison, he will most likely be burned to ashes. After all, that is a strange fire, even if it is a Huang strong man. If his flesh is touched by a little bit, he will lose half a layer of skin if he does not die." Yanran feels stunned and lost, and the emotional value increases by 80. Hearing Gu's words, Yanran didn't know what to say and was very flustered. Gu glanced at her slowly. "Don't worry, I'm talking about ordinary people, and I have a way to cure him in one go, and there will be no danger." The air in the room was silent for a moment. Yanran feels expectant, and the emotional value increases by 80. Su feels hesitant, and the emotional value increases by 30. Are you serious, sir? Then Su would like to thank young Master Gu for saving my life on behalf of my father. Yanran believed Gu's words without hesitation. After all, it was Yuan who invited him for her. Although Su had never seen Gu's strength, he believed it a lot after hearing his confident tone. Wait aside, Gu said lightly, and then his palm was slightly bent, and a stream of air propped up Nilanji on the bed. He glanced at Nilanji casually. Although the old man's already dry face looked a little scary after being eroded by the poison for so long, he could still vaguely see the unruly nature of his name. His left hand lightly slapped on Nilanji's shoulder, and a hidden force shook the robe on Nilanji's body into powder, revealing a skinny body like a skeleton. Looking at this skinny body, Gu's expression did not change, and Yanran, who was standing beside him, had already had some red eyes. The mist, which is extremely rare on ordinary days, lingered in her eyes, making this delicate woman look somewhat pitiful. Chapter 63 Xun'er, Goof, you liar, didn't you say you let it go? Puff. As Goof stretched out his hand, a ball of faint flame ignited in his palm without wind, and the temperature in the room began to rise sharply. Goof turned his palm, and the ball of flame went straight into Nilanji's body, covering a section of black bones. On the bed, Nilanji, who had his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes, and a hoarse and painful dry roar came out of his mouth. A fierce momentum, like a last gasp, awakened. Old man. Looking at the old man who suddenly opened his eyes and roared, Yanran and Su hurriedly shouted, I am expelling the poison for you. Don't be afraid. Glancing at Nilanji, who was sweating profusely, Gu said lightly. Nilanji felt the burning strange fire in his body, which was continuously burning the branding poison like maggot attached to his bones. But the strange fire was too terrible. After a long period of burning, his body could not withstand the one-time treatment, and his face became more and more pale. Thank you, master. Please use your full strength. I can bear it. Nilanji understood and gritted his teeth to respond. Although he had good willpower, this kind of severe pain was not something he could endure. He would faint from the pain. Seeing this, Gu took out a 5th-grade pill from his ring with his right hand. This pill could restore his vitality. After Nilanji took it, his ears and eyes were refreshed. The injuries in his body recovered quickly. He looked back at Gu in shock. Nilanji has shock and gratitude, and his emotion value increases by 30. Thank you, master, for the medicine, Nilanji said gratefully. Next, Gu controlled the strange fire and, with his excellent soul control, patiently burned the black bones that were corroded by the toxin back to a white jade appearance. Okay, there is no more poison in your body. Nilanji exhaled a long breath of turbid air. Sure enough, there was no black mist lingering in it. His skin was ruddy and his eyes were bright. Nilanji feels grateful, and his emotion value increases by 30. Master Gu, I need no thanks for your kindness, he shouted in a loud voice, and Nilanji jumped out of bed, and immediately wanted to pay a great tribute to Gu. Yanran's eyes were red early, and she covered her lips and sobbed excitedly when she saw her grandfather recover. Yanran feels grateful, and her emotion value increases by 80. Su feels grateful, and his emotion value increases by 30. No thanks. Gu waved his hand, and a gentle fighting spirit lifted Nilanji's body that was about to kneel. Master Gu, if you don't mind, can you rest in my house for a few days? I have to treat you well. Nilanji directly called Gu brother, and his words were extremely respectful and polite. Since you have dealt with the matter here, I will leave first. Gu rejected Nilanji's invitation without hesitation. He knew Nilanji's way of doing things. Even if he was grateful to him now, if something happened to him in the future, he would quickly cut off his relationship with him. Huh? So soon? Master Gu, if you need help in the future, just come to me. Nilanji was stunned and wanted to keep him. Seeing that Gu was indifferent, he had to swallow his words and nodded with a smile. On the side, Yanran had left at some point and returned to the room. She walked in holding a plant in a jade flower pot. When the plant appeared, the whole room was immediately filled with a faint and calming fragrance. Smelling the fragrance, Gu Fei's eyes paused on the plant in her hand. The plant was green in color and looked like it was carved from a piece of fine green jade. At the top of the plant, a flower with 7 colors was slowly blooming. As the flower unfolded, Gu Fei was somewhat surprised to find that the 7 colors were also gradually changing, and it looked extremely gorgeous. Young Master Gu Fei, it was because of this thing that my grandfather was poisoned in the battle with the demon beast. This thing can restore the power of the soul. Young Master is a pharmacist, so I think it should be like this. I hope you don't dislike it. Nilan Yanran was very humble and handed the elixir to Gu Fei with both hands. Well, Gu Fei nodded and did not refuse. This 7 illusions green spirit birthday is indeed a good thing for a pharmacist. Besides, this is the reward he deserves. After putting away the 7 illusions green spirit birthday, Gu Fei did not want to waste more time here. After a while, Nilan led a group of people to send Gu Fei and the other 2 to the door of Nilan Mansion. Master Gu Fei, I will definitely repay this favor in the future. Nilan feels grateful, and his emotion value increases by 30. Nilan said in a deep voice. His expression looked quite serious and earnest. Gu Fei smiled and nodded, turned around and left without hesitation. Xiao Fa, who was wearing a moon-white long skirt, bit her lower lip lightly, and looked at Gu Fei's back with a faint look in her eyes, and she didn't come back to her senses for a long time. Nilan Yanran feels curious, and her emotion value increases by 80. As a proud daughter of the Jiama Empire, it was the first time that she was despised by a man of the same generation, but the more Gu Fei was like this, the more curious she became. Since ancient times, heroes love beauties, and beauties also love heroes. Gu Fei is so outstanding that it is inevitable to attract the hearts of some young girls. Perhaps she is one of them. On a mountain peak hundreds of miles away from the Jiama Empire, a graceful and moving figure stood on the peak. The girl melancholy rolled up her hair and frowned. Then, a figure fell to her side. Any news? Xun'er asked. Recently, she and Ling Ying have been running around, constantly looking for news, looking for elixirs that can restore Hei Yan soul power. Miss, I found out that the Nilan family in Jiama Holy City has a strange plant called 7 illusions green spirit saliva. The rhizome of this plant can be extracted into an extremely mysterious liquid substance, and this substance is the best medicine for restoring soul power. Xun'er turned back suddenly, her beautiful eyes full of surprise. But she saw Ling Ying's hesitant expression. What's wrong? She asked nervously. But that thing has been taken away by young Master Gu Fei. The head of the Nilan family was poisoned, and the Nilan family announced that whoever can remove the poison for their head will be given the elixir. And young Master Gu Fei went to the Nilan family 2 days ago, after which Nilan recovered, and the 7 illusions green spirit birthday has been given to young Master Gu Fei by the Nilan family. Did he take it away? Hearing this, Xun'er was a little surprised. How could it be such a coincidence? She was just looking for medicine to treat the soul, and then she heard the news that the 7 illusions green spirit birthday had been taken away by Gu Fei. Xun'er narrowed her eyes, frowned slightly, and murmured, didn't he say that he had let it go? But now his behavior is still targeting me, targeting Brother Xiao Yan. Chapter 64, a powerful Soul Clan member appears. I'd better not interfere in the matter between Miss Xun'er and Master Gu Fei. Listening to Xun'er's whisper, Ling Ying stood aside and pondered for a while, but finally did not respond. Although he felt that Gu Fei should not have such an idea, everything was just a coincidence. Xun'er certainly did not need Ling Ying's response. She looked into the distance and pondered for a long time, with her eyebrows slightly frowned on her beautiful face. After a moment, Xun'er sighed and said, whether Gu Fei obtained the 7 illusions green spirit birthday intentionally or unintentionally, I can't ask him for it. She knew that even if she asked in person, Gu Fei might not give it to her, so she would not go to ask for trouble. But in this way, she might only be able to return to the clan and use the resources of the ancient clan to get the spiritual medicine that can restore soul power. Since he has taken it, we can only look for it somewhere else. On the mountain, the wind whistled, rolling up her long hair, and the fluttering hair disturbed her heart. Xun'er sighed softly in the wind, and then turned and left. At the same time, in a certain sky on the border of the Jiama Empire, on the cloudless sky, a figure shrouded in strange black fog suddenly paused, and then frowned. This breath seems to be the people of the ancient clan. There are so many of them in this small place in the Jiama Empire. It seems that we can't act rashly this time, so as not to alert the people of the ancient clan. It's better to wait for an opportunity in the future. The black shadow murmured in a low voice, and the black fog around him covered his body. The dark eyes turned, and the momentum on his body made people feel terrified. Even if Gu Fei is now at the peak of Zhong, I am afraid that he can't get out of a round in front of this person, because this person is a real high-level member of the Soul Clan. He came to the Gamma Empire this time for a mission within the clan, but before he entered the Gamma Empire, he sensed a very powerful aura. Even he was afraid of the strength of the owner of that aura, not to mention that he originally just wanted to sneak into the Gamma Empire to complete the mission. If he really stepped in, it was hard to say whether he could come out in one piece. Therefore, he gritted his teeth, a trace of resentment flashed across his brows, and he had to interrupt his plan. He stayed in the sky for a moment, then pretended to pass by and left straight away. He didn't even dare to look in the direction of the Gamma Empire. Not long after this Soul Clan strongman left, an old man in a white robe suddenly appeared in the sky where he had stayed. The old man's aura was unfathomable, and a gleam of light flashed in his turbid eyes. And when he came here, the figure of another old man also appeared. It's someone from the Soul Clan. Are the people from the Soul Clan passing by, or are they here specifically? The two people frowned at the same time while talking. The two of them were the elders sent by the ancient clan to protect Gu Fei and Xun'er. At the beginning, Gu Fei and Xun'er left quietly one after another, and the top leaders of the ancient clan certainly found out. The top leaders of the ancient clan knew that Gu Fei was determined to go out for training, so they did not stop him, and hoped that Gu Fei could get his own opportunities. After all, in the ancient world, it is too stable. Without pressure, where does the motivation come from? However, as the most outstanding genius of the ancient clan, Gu Fei went out for training. How could the top leaders of the ancient clan take it lightly? And this elder's strength is really terrible. His means of hiding his breath are much stronger than Gu Fei. Even Gu Fei never noticed that he followed him to the Jiama Empire. Don't care about him. Master Gu Fei is about to leave this small empire now. As long as it is not bad for Master Gu Fei, it has nothing to do with me. After a moment, one of them shook his head and his figure slowly dissipated on the spot. In a hall in the Jiama Palace, Master Gu Fei, please give me some pointers. I really admire you. A jade white hand grabbed Gu Fei's sleeve and said in a delicate voice. This girl was wearing a purple dress with silver patterns. Her delicate appearance, under the influence of the royal family, faintly revealed a touch of innate noble temperament. She didn't seem to be very old, and there was always a little smile on her pretty face, which seemed quite elegant and peaceful. But when she pestered Gu Fei to ask him to guide her in refining medicine, this girl who seemed to be a lady would actually flash a strange smile in her watery eyes. Obviously, this is not a master who likes quietness as she appears. It's impossible to accept a disciple, but I have a refining notebook written by a 7th grade pharmacist. Gu Fei shook his head helplessly at the pleading of this eccentric little girl. He stretched out his hand and took out a scroll. Is this really the 7th grade alchemist's notebook? Yao is happy, and the mood value increases by 50. The little princess curved her eyes at this time, and her eyes were full of smiles. Thank you, Mr. Gu Fei. She smiled mischievously, took the notebook handed to her by Gu Fei and turned to leave. The purple dress fluttered gently, like a fluttering butterfly with a tiny laugh. This little guy. Gu Fei shook his head and smiled helplessly. Then, he stood up and looked at the sky in the distance, with a faint flash of light in his eyes. At this moment, he had planned to leave the Jiama Empire. After all, there was nothing here that was worth his nostalgia. The only thing he wanted was to become stronger. Gu Fei had already decided on the destination of his next trip in the Jiama Palace. He planned to go to Canaan College to collect the fallen heart flame. He was about to leave the Jiama imperial capital, and the imperial capital was shaken again. Yuan was wearing a light-colored dress today, which was rare. Her eyebrows and eyes were gentle, not as arrogant as when they first met. Her cold eyes stared at Gu Fei silently. She knew that she could not keep the seagull, and the burden on her shoulders was too heavy, and she could not let go of everything and follow him. So all Yuan could do was to cherish every encounter. Bon voyage. Yuan's mouth corners slightly raised, revealing a faint smile. Gu Fei looked at her steadily for a moment, and suddenly opened his arms. I'm leaving soon. Don't you want a hug? Yuan has the emotion of hesitation and surprise, and the emotion value increases by 100. Yuan was stunned, and there was a brief blank in her brain. The tall young man raised his lips and gently embraced the woman in front of him. He just held her shoulders lightly like a gentleman and whispered in her ear, "Since you don't object, I will take it as your consent." Yuan feels shy, and her emotion value increases by 100. Yuan was completely stunned, and her expression did not change, but her increasingly fast heartbeat and the rapidly spreading red on her cheeks exposed her restlessness. Gu Fei slowly let go of her and said, "In the future, we will meet again if we are lucky. Maybe when you have unloaded the burden on your shoulders, you will have time to find me." Yuan feels reluctant, and her emotion value increases by 100. Yuan was still a little absent-minded, but the others had already walked in front of her and said goodbye to Gu Fei one by one. "Mr. Gu Fei, you are welcome to come to the imperial capital again when you are free." Jia Xingchen laughed heartily. Hai Bodong was not good at speaking, so he just nodded to Gu Fei and said, "See you later." Nalanji stepped forward and said with a smile, "Young Master Gu Fei, if you need anything in the future, just call me for help." Nalanji feels grateful, and his emotion value increases by 30. Hearing Nalanji's promise, Gu Fei inexplicably wanted to laugh. Nilan Yanran stood behind Nalanji. Her eyes fell on Gu Fei. The always bright girl had an inexplicable reluctance in her eyes at this time. Nilan Yanran feels reluctant, and her emotion value increases by 80. On the side, Yif smiled and waved her hand, and no one knew what she was thinking. "Everyone, then we will go first." After taking Xiao and King Lin on the back of the Lion King, Gu Fei turned around and said, "Have a good trip." He no longer lingered, waved his hand, and ordered the Lion King to hurry to the next journey. Chapter 65. My name is Gu Fei, and I come for the strange fire. It would take an ordinary person several months to walk from the capital of Jiama Empire to the western border. However, the purple crystal-winged Lion King carried Gu Fei, Xiao, and King Lin, and it took only one day to get out of the border of Jiama Empire. To cross the Jiama border and go to Canaan College in the center of the Black Horn region, you need to cross dozens of large and small countries, and then cross the Black Horn Plain. Gu Fei had walked this road before. When he came here, he rushed at full speed. But this time, there were two more people beside him, and the journey was not as fast as before. When Gu Fei came to the northwest continent in a dusty manner, he had never seen the scenery along the way. Now that he had a beautiful woman by his side, why not slow down a little and enjoy some leisure time? The journey was long and far, and their destination was in the Black Horn region. Gu Fei simply told Xiao and King Lin about the situation in the Black Horn region. Due to its special terrain, the Black Horn region has become the most chaotic region in the entire continent. Countless powerful people from various countries have fled here and established the most barbaric rules. In the Black Horn region, there are no legal constraints. There is only one law, the law of the jungle. The weak here generally have no right to survive. I didn't expect that the Black Horn region would be such a chaotic place. Listening to Gu Fei's explanation, Xiao couldn't help but frown. Before, she lived in King Shan town. Although there were big and small fights, there was also order to maintain. She was gentle and peaceful by nature, and hated this kind of chaos the most. King Lin didn't feel much about it. After all, she grew up under the disgust of humans and snake people and was used to suffering. On this day, as they were gradually approaching the Black Region plain, Gu Fei talked about Canaan Academy. Perhaps it is the law of nature that things will turn into the opposite when they reach their extremes. In this chaotic place called Black Horn, there is a very stable place called Canaan College. Within a certain range of Canaan College, it is a peaceful area. It is said that anyone who brings the chaotic atmosphere here will become a corpse on a big tree at the junction of Canaan College and the Black Horn the next day. Then Canaan College must be a place that many people in the Black Horn yearn for. The two girls showed a look of yearning on their faces at the same time. Gu Fei smiled heartily. Next, Our destination is Canaan College. Now Yixian is excited, and the emotion value increases by 100. King Lin is happy, and the emotion value increases by 70. As soon as Gu Fei said this, Now Yixian's mouth corners rose, and King Lin's eyes widened with joy. That kind of place is something they could never have come into contact with before. Canaan College attracted them more than the Jiama Palace before. Soon, the Lion King flew to the Black Horn region. Gu Fei took Now Yixian and King Lin and got off the Lion King's back outside the Black Seal City, intending to rest in the city for a night. In this place, fighting can be seen everywhere. There is no order at all, and gunfights often occur on the streets in the city. Seeing the two sides fighting desperately, their eyes were full of cruelty. Fighting spirits shuttled randomly, and blood splashed. Even though Now Yixian had heard about it from Gu Fei a long time ago, she was still a little dazed when she really saw it. She bit her lower lip lightly, turned her head quickly, and looked at Gu Fei, her eyes full of disgust for this place. King Lin was frightened by the screams that soared into the sky and hid behind Gu Fei and Now Yixian, timidly not daring to look up. Therefore, the two of them stayed in the room of the inn all day, and had no mood to go out. The next morning, Gu Fei took Now Yixian and King Lin, riding the purple crystal-winged Lion King, and went straight to Canaan College. The purple crystal-winged Lion King received Gu Fei's order and moved forward at full speed. In just one day, they arrived 100 miles away from Canaan College. Although the people of Canaan College did not allow outsiders to fly in this area, Gu Fei still let the purple crystal-winged Lion King fly over directly because he was with Yixian and King Lin. In the sight, at the angle between two majestic mountains, there was a small town looming. That is Hepping Town. The purple crystal-winged Lion King approached at a very fast speed. This huge flying monster covered the sky and brought gusts of wind. In Hepping Town, the law enforcement team of Canaan College soon noticed the purple crystal-winged Lion King. A long time ago, after a bloody battle between the Black Horn region and Canaan College, the bodies of Tu Duang and Ed Huang strongmen were cruelly hung on the dead spirit tree at the entrance of Hepping Town. Since then, the area around Canaan College has long been a quiet area that is incompatible with the outside world. No strong man from the Black Horn region dares to break into these small towns with murderous intent. Even if there are occasional riots, the harasser will become a corpse and be stuck on the dead tree in a short time. Over the years, the notoriety of the dead tree has almost spread to the entire Black Horn region. Therefore, even those extremely vicious people rarely have the courage to enter this place, which is a grave for them. Canaan College has not encountered such a rampant intrusion for many years. Such a huge monster. At this moment, on the ground, not only are all the team members at a loss, but even their captain has a strong panic on his face. The matter is urgent. Go and report to the dean. These people shouted. These law enforcement team members patrolling outside are unable to intercept the Lion King at all. After a while, a huge city appeared in Gu Fei's sight in the sky, and he whispered at this time, "Stop!" The huge body of the purple crystal-winged Lion King suddenly stopped and did not move forward. Then, 7 or 8 figures quickly rushed out of the huge city in front. Gu Fei narrowed his eyes and sensed for a moment, and then he realized that the 7 or 8 figures, the worst of whom had the strength of a 6-star Wang. The people who came were the dean of the outer court, Hu Qian, and some other elders of the outer court. "Who are you? Why do you ignore the no-fly rule of my Canaan Academy?" The person who asked the question was the dean of the outer court, the peaked Huang strongman Hu Qian. Although Gu Fei was riding a 6th-level flying magic beast at this time, he looked carefree and had a great background. But Hu Qian, as a peaked Huang strongman and the dean of the outer court of Canaan Academy, had a lot of experience. At this moment, he suppressed the shock in his heart and asked seriously. Behind Hu Qian, a group of elders from the outer academy and the law enforcement team were on full alert, staring at Gu Fei with some fear. Gu Fei was standing on the Lion King's head at this time, looking down at Hu Qian, his voice flat. "My name is Gu Fei. I heard that Canaan College has a collection of strange fire, so I came to see it." Gu Fei did not hide his purpose and said it bluntly. With his current peak of Zong and the ability to enter the realm of Zun at any time, all the people in front of him combined could not beat him. Therefore, He didn't need to do any tricks to become a student and sneak into Canaan College. Chapter 66. Did I hear it right? The elder called this kid Xun'er. Gu Yan feels unhappy, and his emotion value increases by 30. So you came for the strange fire. Gu Yan frowned, a little unhappy. This arrogant young man who came from nowhere ignored the rule of no flying outside the academy and rode a flying monster directly into the academy. As soon as he opened his mouth, he asked for the foundation of Canaan Academy, which would make anyone angry. However, the next moment, his frowning brows were forced to relax, and his eyes were full of shock, because, as soon as Gu finished speaking, he lowered his eyes, and a fleeting playful smile appeared at the corner of his lips, directly revealing his Zong cultivation. Gu Yan feels shocked, and his emotion value increases by 30. The extremely powerful and terrifying sense of oppression, like facing a ferocious beast, made even Gu Yan stiffen, his face a little stagnant, and his eyes full of shock, not to mention the people behind him whose cultivation was far inferior to his. This absolute and irresistible sense of oppression made Gu Yan think of the two extremely mysterious guardians in Canaan Academy. This person's cultivation aura seems to be even more terrifying than those two. In his impression, the two elders, one black and one white, had long hoods covering their faces, revealing only their chins and tightly pursed lips. Even Gu Yan had never tested their true strength because of their unfathomable aura. He only remembered that every time the library was opened, the two elders would briefly appear, and each time they left a deep impression on him. However, in terms of the powerful fighting spirit and pressure, the two elders were not as powerful as the mysterious young man in front of him. Such a strong man had at least reached the peak of Zong, and it was very likely that he had entered the Zun realm. Gu Yan's eyes became more serious, and his voice became polite and respectful. Gu Yan has a respectful emotion, and his emotion value increases by 30. Facing such a strong man, he did not dare to neglect him at all, nor did he dare to ask Gu more. Instead, he asked in a very serious manner, "Senior, are you here just to watch the strange fire?" People who practice cultivation always respect the strong. Even though Gu Yan was in his prime and Gu looked like a teenager, he did not dare to look down on Gu with such a respectful attitude, even calling Gu senior. Everyone on the field, including Xiao Yan and King Lin behind him, did not think there was anything wrong. After a moment of silence, Gu said bluntly, "If the strange fire satisfies me, I will naturally take it away. Of course, I will not let the academy suffer a loss. I will make some compensation at that time, and the value will not be lower than the strange fire." If Gu Yan did not know the depth of Gu's strength, he would be angry after hearing this. The strange fire is the lifeblood of Canaan Academy, but just sensing Gu's breath just now, Gu Yan knew that facing a strong man like Gu, he would not have the idea of confronting him at all. Otherwise, he would only die miserably. However, at this time, he was here as the dean of the outer school, and Gu Yan knew very well the importance of the strange fire to Canaan Academy. Gu Yan is hesitant, and his emotion value increases by 30. Therefore, at this moment, he almost gritted his teeth and hesitated for a long time before he gritted his teeth and said to Gu, "Senior, this matter is of great importance. Can you let us discuss it?" "Senior, you can rest in Canaan City for the time being. The strange fire is too important to Canaan College. If necessary, Canaan College can even offend a strong man who has at least reached the peak of Zong for the strange fire. Then I will give you 2 days. After 2 days, I hope to give a satisfactory answer." Gu did not rush, but took the initiative to answer. After all, the strange fire has been locked there and can't run away, so he doesn't need to act aggressive. Afterwards, the Lion King obeyed Gu's order and flew alone to the outside of Heping Town to find a suitable place to stay temporarily. Gu himself entered Canaan City with Xiao Yan and King Lin, who were obviously curious about this place. Before leaving, Gu Yan asked very respectfully, "Senior, do you need an elder from the academy to accompany you?" Gu shook his head lightly and walked ahead. "Brother Gu, this Canaan City is worthy of being the birthplace of the oldest academy on the continent. This title alone has attracted countless people to come here." Walking on the wide streets paved with bluestone, The surging flow of people on the streets and the happy smiles on people's faces made the little medical fairy couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. She opened her eyes wide and looked around with some curiosity. This extraordinary popularity is even beyond the imperial capital of the Jiama Empire that she had visited before. On the streets of the city, vendors can be seen everywhere, and they shout enthusiastically to welcome guests. In this city, vendors can do business properly without worrying about being robbed like other places in the Black Horn region. It is very safe. However, as they gradually approached the center of Canaan City, the vendors on a nearby street were obviously different from those on other streets. Perhaps because it was close to Canaan College, most of the stalls on this street were selling fighting skills, elixirs and other items. I wonder what the scene is like inside this college. Zhao Yixian stood in the center of the street. Her eyes could see the ancient college gate over there, and she felt curious. Seeing Zhao Yixian's lingering eyes, Gu Fei shook his head with a smile, and took her and King Lin to the door. There was someone on duty at the gate of the outer courtyard. The student saw the unfamiliar Gu Fei and the other two and was about to stop them. Wait! A voice suddenly sounded behind him, and the student turned around and saw that it was an elder from the outer courtyard. Then, he watched as the elder led Gu Fei into the inner courtyard very naturally. Senior, please come this way. Outer courtyard students feel surprised. Emotion value increases by 1. Did I hear it right? Elder Mu just called that kid senior? This scene surprised the students guarding the gate. They didn't expect that the elders of the outer courtyard would actually call a young man senior. Gu followed the elder of the outer courtyard slowly and walked in with a swagger, completely ignoring the surprised eyes of the students on duty. The little medical fairy caught a glimpse of the man's loss of composure and laughed out loud. King Lin didn't react. She looked at her in confusion, and followed Gu Fei obediently, opening her pair of green snake eyes and looking around curiously. As soon as he entered the outer courtyard, Gu Fei said to the elder, "There is no need to lead us anymore. Let's just walk around." Followed by an elder of the outer courtyard, he would become the focus wherever he went. Gu Fei was not afraid of other people's eyes, but it really affected the visit of several people. Chapter 67, Little Medical Fairy. Are all men like this? They can't walk when they see a beautiful woman? Okay, then I won't bother you anymore. Elder Mu bowed respectfully and then left. Seeing Elder Mu walk away, Zhao Yixian was no longer restrained and said excitedly, "Brother Gu Fei, is this what the academy is like? It looks really good." She glanced at many students who were communicating seriously. They were surrounded by fighting spirit and looked quite focused. King Lin's eyes were full of envy, and the wish she said was very simple. "Brother Gu Fei, I also want to come to Canaan Academy to study in the future. The atmosphere in the academy is much purer than other places, although there is still competition. This kind of atmosphere is something that Zhao Yixian and King Lin have never experienced before." It is also because of this that they all had a sense of yearning. Next, the three continued to stroll around the outer courtyard leisurely. Soon, 7 or 8 male students appeared in front of Gu Fei, gathered together, and were discussing something loudly. Gu Fei and his friends walked closer and naturally heard the topic they were discussing. However, the content of the discussion made her frown unconsciously. "Look, that's Xiao. These legs are really top-notch." Gu Fei, the little medical immortal, looked in the direction of the voice and saw that at the end of the passage, a beautiful woman in academy clothes came. This beautiful woman had a long sword on her waist and a tall figure. The most eye-catching thing was her round and slender long legs. Even the enchanting and charming If did not have such sexy long legs. The warm sunlight sprinkled on them, as if shining on white jade or ice and snow, so white that it was a bit dazzling. The alternating long legs were glowing with a warm luster, and the soft and delicate skin was like the best jade. "These legs are really top-notch." Seeing such a pair of top-notch long legs, even Gu Fei, who was always calm and indifferent, exclaimed in his heart, and his eyes stayed for a moment. "Men are all like this. They can't walk when they see a beautiful woman." Zhao Yixian noticed the gazes and explicit words of those male students, and immediately understood the object of their comments. She curled her lips with some contempt and said softly. At this time, she did not notice Gu's paused gaze. The tall woman walked towards this side, and soon, a red shadow quickly approached and caught up with the long-legged woman. The woman who ran quickly was wearing a red dress, and her slightly pretty cheeks showed a bright smile. Her long brown hair was casually tied into a ponytail, and her plumpness was simply luxurious. Slender waist, plump and round buttocks. One more point would be too plump, one less point would be insufficient, and the perfect curves made her look more seductive. Although her appearance was a little worse than the woman who appeared before, however, this extremely fiery devil figure was very coveted by men. After she came over, the eyes of many men around her were vaguely swept over this woman. Really good. Xun'er seems to be more exciting than Xiao. You know what? That waist, that figure, is so perfect. Listening to the words of those male students, Gu Fei frowned speechlessly. Bah, these people, really. She shook her head and found that the male students in these academies, when gathered together, really dared to say anything. Gu Fei raised his eyebrows, but did not find it strange. In his previous life, when he was studying in a school on Blue Star, the male classmates around him also behaved like this, gathering together to enjoy the beautiful scenery, sharing with each other, and not stinging with comments. Ah, brother Gu Fei, why are you looking over there too? Gu Fei has dissatisfaction. Emotional value increases by 100. Suddenly, Gu Fei's eyes turned and she found that Gu Fei was also looking over there. She immediately came over angrily, grabbed his sleeve, and pulled him away. King Lan was young and didn't understand these things. He just followed the two of them ignorantly, and was a little surprised. What happened to Sister Gu Fei? Why did she suddenly pull Brother Gu Fei away? Are they three also students of the academy? How come I have never seen them before? I haven't seen them either. They are not students, right? How did they get in? Just then, the group of male students finally noticed Gu Fei and his two companions who were leaving. Gu Fei and his two companions were not wearing student uniforms. Male students become suspicious. Emotional value increases by 0.1. Their eyes fell on Gu Fei and his two companions, their eyes full of suspicion, especially when they saw that Gu Fei was surrounded by two beauties, Gu Fei and King Lan. A male student got jealous and shouted, "Who are you three? How did you get into the academy?" Male students become jealous. Emotional value increases by 0.1. Gu Fei was not angry, his face was calm. He knew that hiding his aura meant that there would be some minor troubles, but why bother? Let's go somewhere else. Gu Fei ignored the man directly, turned sideways and whispered to Gu Fei and King Lan, "Stop." You. Male students become dissatisfied. Emotional value increases by 0.1. Seeing this, the student seemed to feel that he was ignored by Gu Fei, and his face was damaged, so he spoke even louder. Noisy. However, before he could say the next sentence, he was knocked away by an infinite force and fell heavily to the ground. A burst of dust dissipated, and the student choked and coughed. His whole body was in pain, and he tried to get up tremblingly. Outer courtyard students feel surprised, and the emotion value increases by 0.1. Everyone didn't see how Gu Fei made them move, and they were stunned. Not far away, Xiao and Xun'er also focused their eyes on Gu Fei, and their beautiful eyes were full of curiosity. Xiao feels curious, and the emotion value increases by 50. Xun'er feels curious, and the emotion value increases by 30. Gu Fei and the other two walked away, and no one dared to stop them. Soon, a student who had seen Elder Mu accompanying Gu Fei on a tour finally spoke hesitantly. "Just now, I was at the gate of the outer courtyard, and I saw the elder especially respectfully invite them in, and it seemed that he was still calling that person senior." The group's brains had already gone blank, and their eyes were full of shock. Could it be that they just made things difficult for the wrong person? At night, Gu Fei, Gu Fei, and King Lan did not choose to stay in Canaan College, but stayed in an inn in the city. The inn was in the street market and was very lively. Gu Fei and King Lan changed their clothes and happily strolled around all night until the moon was high in the sky. Then they reluctantly followed Gu Fei back to the inn. At the same time, in the night, three figures flew from the vast mountains outside Canaan City. The leader had no fighting wings behind him, and walked in the air, obviously reaching the Zong level. This person was the elder of the inner courtyard who received the news and rushed here quickly, Su Gan, and was also the only Zong powerhouse in Canaan College. Chapter 68. Even if Monkey Anchai is here, So what? Ever since receiving the message from Hu Qian, Su Qian's face has been very solemn. He also guessed Gu Fei's identity, but with his knowledge, how could he know Gu Fei, the first prodigy of the ancient clan? At this moment, he brought several elders and rushed from the inner courtyard to Canaan City without stopping. Since that person did not use force, it is very likely that he was concerned about the old dean, so there should be room for maneuver. Su Qian silently calculated in his heart, because, if the person who came to ask for the strange fire is really as strong as Hu Qian's message, even if they rushed over, they can only argue with reason. Resistance is not very useful. After all, that is at least a strong man at the peak level of Zong. Su Qian is only a 2-star Zong now. How can he fight? The next morning, Gu Fei took Yixian and King Lin to the gate of the outer courtyard of Canaan College, intending to enter again. At this time, a group of people wearing Canaan College elders' uniforms came over. The middle-aged man in the lead had a polite smile on his serious face, but his eyes were filled with worry. Su Qian was hesitant. His emotion value increased by 50, he frowned slightly, but soon relaxed his brows, and his steps paused for a moment. The reason was that Gu Fei looked too young, and was completely different from the strong man in Hu Qian's letter who was likely to have entered the Xun realm. Gu Fei heard the system's prompt and looked up calmly. He happened to meet Su Qian's eyes. Su Qian felt his heart jump suddenly when he was caught off guard by the pair of dark eyes. His keen perception told him that the young man in front of him, whose depth was unclear, was extremely dangerous. A thin voice came from behind him. "Great Elder, this is the senior." After hearing Hu Qian's words, Su Qian nodded calmly, retracted his gaze, and immediately had no doubts. Immediately, he walked over quickly. Su Qian had no doubts about this overly young face, but nodded respectfully to Gu Fei and greeted him. Gu Fei raised his eyebrows. This elder of the inner courtyard was quite magnanimous. He did not question the authenticity of the news sent back by Hu Qian just because he was young. Su Qian looked at Gu Fei cautiously and asked, "Senior, are you really here to get the strange fire?" Gu Fei glanced at him slowly, moved his fingertips slightly, nodded, his eyes full of strength, and looked determined to get it. "Yes, Senior. I believe you also know how important that thing is to my inner courtyard." Su Qian frowned, thought for a moment, and spoke in a somewhat euphemistic way. "The fallen heart flame can release the heart fire and help people temper their fighting spirit. It is simply known as a cheating device for cultivation. It was suppressed under the Tanfan refining Chi Tower and continuously provided assistance to Canaan College. It is the foundation of Canaan College. The rise of the inner court is completely inseparable from the fallen heart flame. As the elder of the inner court, Su Qian is of course the most clear. Without the fallen heart flame, the inner court would not be able to cultivate talents like it is now, and would gradually wither away. If the inner court withers away and the outside world gets to know the news, it is hard to say whether the Canaan Academy can't still be retained in the Black Horn region. That is why Su Qian has always refused to compromise. I naturally know the importance of the fallen heart flame to you, but I said that after taking the strange fire, I will make compensation and will never let your inner court suffer a loss." Gu Fei nodded again and said directly, "The compensation he could offer would naturally not be half a point worse than the fallen heart flame. Senior, although the fallen heart flame can accelerate the cultivation effect, it does not seem to have much effect on someone like you, and refining the strange fire is full of dangers." Su Qian's voice was still very tactful, because he did not know how Gu Fei would compensate the inner court, and he must want to strive to keep the fallen heart flame. Indeed, for Gu Fei, who was at the peak of Zong and could enter the realm of Xun at any time, the effect of the fallen heart flame accelerating his cultivation was no longer of much use. At most it was just some icing on the cake. However, the danger of refining the strange fire mentioned by Su Qian was nothing to Gu Fei. "Don't worry about these, I can still deal with the mere fallen heart flame." Gu Fei raised his eyebrows and said confidently, never willing to give in. Su Qian felt embarrassed. Emotional value increased by 20. Su Qian sighed and had to retreat to advance. "Senior, since you're so confident, we can't say anything more, but this strange fire was left by the old dean. and we don't have the right to deal with it." He paused. Su Qian knew that the old dean, Manqi Anchai, was an absolute Zun strongman, and he left after leaving the Fallen Heart Flame. Although he rarely managed the affairs of Canaan College on weekdays and liked to travel around, his name still shocked the entire Black Horn region. "If the strange fire is lost, we can't explain to the old dean." Su Qian continued to speak. He mentioned the old dean just to make Gu Fei afraid, but how could Gu Fei be afraid? With his status, even if Manqi Anchai was here, he would still dare to ask for the strange fire. After all, the ranking of the Fallen Heart Flame on this strange fire list is not high, above the semi-saint. This level of strange fire has little effect. Senior Manqi Anchai left the strange fire in the inner courtyard at the beginning, just to create a unique academy. "Since I said that I would not let the inner courtyard suffer, I will definitely not." Gu Fei directly pointed out the name of the old dean, and there was no fear in his voice. "Lead the way." Su Qian opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Gu Fei's next sentence. He frowned, but didn't say anything else. Gu Fei moved his fingertips, and the fighting spirit fluctuated for a moment. Then, a familiar huge figure flew from not far away. The overwhelming shadow made many people in Canaan City exclaim. Gu Fei gave an order, and the huge purple crystal-winged Lion King flew directly over the sky of Canaan City. Gu Fei embraced Xiao Yan's slender waist, and with King Lin, he stepped into the air in front of the inner courtyard elders and Su Qian. He changed his body shape, and he stepped into the air directly without any help and came to the back of the Lion King. Originally, the inner courtyard elders behind Su Qian were still discussing fiercely, and many of them were doubting whether Gu Fei really had such terrifying strength as Su Qian said, and even far exceeded Su Qian. Gu Fei's ability to walk in the air made the inner courtyard elders all silent and no longer questioned his strength. Su Qian and Hu Qian on the ground looked at each other and sighed helplessly. Seeing Gu Fei's tough look, "I'm afraid that no matter how they fight for it, Gu Fei will have to take the Fallen Heart Flame." Gu Fei is still willing to tell them politely now, so Su Qian and others can't risk offending the peaked Zong strongman to refuse him. After hesitating for a moment, Su Qian, Hu Qian and the others had no choice but to agree, and then flew in front of Gu Fei to lead the way. The purple crystal-winged Lion King followed the huge group of people in front and flew out of the city. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69: The Determination of the Little Medical Fairy. The reason why Gu Fei wasted time in Canaan City was not to take the Fallen Heart Flame directly like he did before. It was because he didn't know the specific location of the inner courtyard for the time being. In addition, Canaan City did have some characteristics, and it would be nice to take Xiao Yan and King Lin to experience the local customs. Although he could find it if he really wanted to, it would be a waste of time. Wouldn't it be more convenient to let the people in the inner courtyard lead the way? The inner courtyard is located in the vast mountains behind Canaan City, and ordinary people don't know the location. The vast forest is full of various magical beasts. Even if they are in the sky, they can see many strange-looking magical beasts along the way. If ordinary people enter alone, they will probably have to fight hard all the way to the inner courtyard. However, under the aura of the purple crystal-winged Lion King, not many blind magical beasts dare to rush out to seek death. After flying for about half an hour, Su Qian, Hu Qian and others stopped. Su Qian looked back and glanced at Gu Fei. Gu Fei sensed something and shouted softly, and the purple crystal-winged Lion King suddenly stopped. "Are we there yet?" Xiao Yan and King Lin swept their eyes forward, looked around carefully, and passed by, but they were puzzled to find that except for a bottomless mountain stream below, the rest of the place was still endless green shade. There was no one in the dense forest, let alone the inner courtyard. They looked at Gu Fei in surprise. Xiao Yan has doubts, and the emotion value increases by 100. King Lin has doubts, and the emotion value increases by 70. There is a space seal blocking it in front of us, Gu Fei explained with a smile. Not long after Gu Fei finished speaking, Yan's figure in front of the Lion King dropped a little, and in midair, he slowly walked 10 steps forward. Then, he paused, waved his hand, and a stream of energy shot out from his hand, and finally shot towards the space in front of him. Immediately, a strange scene emerged. When the energy shot through a certain empty space, it brought up waves like water waves. These ripples fluctuated rapidly, and finally a pale silver door that was 7 or 8 feet tall appeared out of thin air. Looking at the strangely appearing silver door, Xiao and King Lin were both shocked, their eyes full of amazement. "Brother Gu Fei, is this the space seal?" King Lin asked excitedly. "This space seal is really magical." King Lin couldn't hold back his temper and moved forward to see it more clearly. A door suddenly appeared in the place where there was nothing. Xiao couldn't help but sigh secretly. Obviously, they didn't expect that this seemingly ordinary place would hide such a mystery. Yan waved his hand lightly, and the silver door slowly opened with a crisp sound under the gaze of everyone. The scene behind the door was also the same dense forest as always, which seemed to be no different from the dense forest in front of them. All this was too incredible, even if it was seen with the naked eye. It might not be real. Moreover, Gu Fei had seen the mystery here at a glance. Xiao had a calm face, but her eyes were a little burning, and King Lin's eyes were full of yearning. She made up her mind in her heart that she would practice with Brother Gu Fei in the future and be more attentive. Xiao was not good at practicing, but she also had a little desire for strength. At this time, she and King Lin were more yearning for the path of practice, and hoped that they could become stronger in the future. At least, they would not have to drag Gu Fei down all the time. After the space gate opened, Yan said loudly, "Senior, please follow me." Then, the people in the inner courtyard accelerated their speed like streams of light, and flew straight into the door. Gu Fei did not hesitate and let the Lion King follow Yan and fly through the space gate. Even if Yan really wanted to cheat, he was not afraid of anything, unless the Dean Monkey Anshai did it himself. Otherwise, no one in the entire Canaan Academy could stop Gu Fei. They flew all the way, and a lot of time passed. After flying over a tall hillside, a huge sunken basin appeared below Gu Fei's sight. Looking at the shape of this basin, Xiao on the back of the purple crystal-winged Lion King was amazed again. The shape of this basin does not seem to be naturally generated by the movement of the Earth's crust, but it is like a huge meteorite falling from the sky and smashing it. From a distance, there are towering buildings in the basin. Looking down from a high place, you can vaguely see a series of black shadows like fleas constantly flashing and jumping on the buildings. The sight spreads forward, and Xiao finds that the area of this basin is a bit surprising. When the sight reaches the end, you can still only see the towering buildings and lush green. It is simply unimaginable that in the endless mountains behind Canaan College, there is still such a strange place hidden. The breath of strange fire. When he came here, the breath of strange fire could be clearly sensed by Gu Fei, so he raised his chin and ordered the Lion King to fly to the north of the inner courtyard. Before Yan gave any instructions, he noticed the direction the Lion King was flying. He shook his head, sighed, and followed again. A huge flying monster flew over the inner courtyard. Gu Fei did not restrain himself, but let the Lion King fly over there in a swagger. Such a big commotion, of course, attracted a lot of people's attention. In the inner courtyard, many students were shocked, and looked at the purple crystal-winged Lion King in surprise. Gu Fei restrained his breath, and the protective shield wrapped around the breath of Xiao and King Lin. With the cultivation of those students, of course they could not detect that there were actually 3 people on the purple crystal-winged Lion King. Therefore, they only thought that this was a high-level flying monster with intelligence. Although the pressure of this monster was extremely terrifying, and the aggressive look of flying over was really scary, many students had to subconsciously take a fighting posture. However, they all saw that when they entered the inner courtyard space just now, Elder Yan was ahead of the magic beast for a distance. The appearance of one man and one beast entering the sky above the inner courtyard one after another clearly showed that Elder Yan was leading the way for the magic beast. These students did not think that the purple crystal-winged Lion King was here to attack. They gathered in 2s and 3s, staring at the figure of the purple crystal-winged Lion King going away, and their curiosity grew. Who is this magic beast, and why did even Elder Xiao personally lead the way for it? Afterwards, the purple crystal-winged Lion King listened to Gu Fei's instructions and landed on the ground in an open space in front of a black tower. In their sight, a huge and strange black tower was buried deep underground, but on the ground, a section of the tower top and a layer of dark entrance were exposed. The tower is buried underground? How strange! This extremely strange scene made the astonishment on Xiao Yan's face even stronger. Chapter 70 Little Yan. The black tower was buried deep underground, with only part of the tower top and the dark entrance exposed. Gu Fei's sight fell on the top of the tower. He could clearly see that the air around the tower was trembling subtly, and the space was somewhat distorted and wrinkled. It seems that this seal was set up by Senior Monkey Anchai when he left, Gu Fei murmured in his heart. Although he knew that Monkey Anchai's cultivation level might have reached the level of a semi-saint now, but Monkey Anchai, who set up this seal, should have only been an ordinary Xun. Although a seal left by an ordinary Xun seemed strong and indestructible at the time, it had become very weak as time passed. If this seal had not weakened, the fallen heart flame would not have broken out of the tower a few years later in the original book. With Gu Fei's current Zong peak strength, it would not be difficult to break this seal. At this moment, because of Gu Fei's arrival, the students around him stood in place one by one, with shock, confusion in their eyes. The inner courtyard students are shocked, and their emotion value increases by 1. The inner courtyard students are confused, and their emotion value increases by 1. They are shocked because of Gu Fei's overly young face, the unusually respectful attitude of Great Elder Xiao, and the huge magic beast behind him, the purple crystal-winged Lion King. The Lion King retracted his wings, looked down from above, and stared at these so-called prodigies of heaven in the northwest continent with humanized beast eyes, which attracted waves of amazement at the Lion King and Gu Fei. Many students were a little confused. Now it is clear that many students are practicing in the burning heaven refining chi tower. Why did Great Elder Xiao bring a stranger here? Gu Fei was motionless and looked around at the inner courtyard students who were whispering around. Elder Xiao, you should evacuate the students practicing in the tower first, so as to prevent them from being injured by the hard fire when I take action later, Gu Fei said directly. Hearing this, although Xiao was reluctant, he pursed his lips and did it. In the original novel, Han Feng brought a group of Black-Horn Domain strongmen to seize the strange fire. Xiao, Hu Qian and others tried their best to stop them. Although there was a bloody battle and heavy casualties, they finally stopped Han Feng's group. That's because Han Feng's group didn't even have a real Zong. They could only rely on the two elders of Jin and Yin to stop Xiao, the Zong. The gap between the two sides was not big, and the strength of Gu Fei, who is at the peak of Zong, can't be defeated by numbers. How dare these people from Canaan Academy resist, knowing that everyone who goes up is going to die, who would still have the heart to fight? All students, leave the burning heaven refining chi tower quickly. The next moment, in the heaven burning chi refining chi tower, many inner courtyard students who closed their eyes and were seriously tempering their chi in the training room with their heart fire almost heard Xiao's urgent call at the same time. What's the situation? On the 6th floor of the heaven burning chi refining chi tower, a tall young man walked out of the training room. Although this young man was only 22 years old, the determination on his face made him look very mature. Not far from the training room where he was, a young man who looked elegant also had a look of doubt on his face. The 6th floor was for students on the inner courtyard's strong list. The two people were Liu King and Lin Xiaoyan, who were ranked high on the list. We'll know if we go out and take a look. Lin Xiaoyan and Liu King walked together and quickly walked out of the tower. When they reached the ground, Liu King and Lin Xiaoyan's eyes fell on Gu Fei at the same time. Gu Fei looked very young, a few years younger than the two of them. However, when Xiao spoke to him, there was obvious respect in his eyes. Lin Xiaoyan has a curious emotion, and the emotion value increases by 20. Liu King has a curious emotion, and the emotion value increases by 20. Both of them came from Zhangzhou. Whether it was talent or strength, they were always the pride of heaven in the eyes of others. and the absolute best among the inner courtyard students. Lin Xiaoya remained calm and stood closer to the students next to him. When he heard their conversation, he couldn't hide the shock in his eyes. I heard that the Great Elder personally brought him here to get the strange fire. How is that possible? How important is that thing to the inner court? Why would the Great Elder agree to this when he is so young? Didn't you see the flying monster behind him? I was just at the door, but I was lucky enough to see the senior flying in the air. Judging from the Great Elder's appearance, his strength is probably far beyond that of the Great Elder. Liu King is surprised, and his emotion value increases by 10. Lin Xiaoya is shocked, and his emotion value increases by 10. Liu King and Lin Xiaoya's pupils shrank slightly. Goof looks so young, but he has already reached the level of Zhang. The masters of the inner court's strong list, who always look down on others, all showed surprised expressions. This person can't be as young as he looks. Even the powerful forces in Zhongzhou can't cultivate such a monster. One person thought to himself, not believing that there is such a monster in the world. Goof's sight slowly passed through these inner court students and suddenly stopped at a little girl in white clothes who was only as tall as his waist. The little girl seemed to be only 12 or 13 years old, with long lavender hair that reached her waist. Her cheeks were extremely white and tender, and she looked like a jade sculpture, very cute. At this time, the little girl who came out of the tower also looked at Goof with a pair of black and watery eyes, and her eyes were full of curiosity. Yan has a curious emotion, and the emotion value increases by 100. Remind through the emotion value. Goof paused and confirmed that the girl in white was Yan. Elder Sukion, there is such a young student in our courtyard, and her cultivation is quite good. She is not human, Goof said with a smile, obviously talking about Yan. Sukion has a surprised emotion, and the emotion value increases by 30. Seeing that Goof could tell Yan's identity as a demon beast at a glance, Sukion was even more surprised. She is indeed not human. Sukion nodded, but did not say anything more. I observed her aura, and it was familiar, like she was from that demon beast family. I just don't know why the members of that demon beast family would end up in the northwest continent. Goof raised the corner of his mouth and spoke deliberately. You mean, you know her life experience? Sukion is surprised, and his emotion value increases by 30. Hearing this, Sukion's eyes were full of surprise, and he couldn't help but ask. Yeah, Goof nodded. If that's the case, that's great. This little guy has always wanted to grow up and understand his life experience. Sukion showed a faint smile on his face. He really cared about Yan and hoped that Yan could understand her life experience, so that she could practice without distraction. Let's talk about this after I collect the fallen heart flame. Seeing that all of the students in the inner courtyard of the tower had come out, Goof shook his head and immediately turned back to look at Xiao Yan and King Lin. You two wait here, I'll be back soon. Goof asked the two of them to wait where they were, and cast a seal around them to protect them. Chapter 71 Conquering the Fallen Heart Flame. After setting up the seal, Goof walked slowly into the tower under the gaze of everyone. Although the hard fire in the tower formed in his heart, it did not cause any effect. The elder of the inner courtyard, Sukion, followed behind Goof, and there was still a trace of worry in his eyes. Sukion has a worried emotion, and the emotion value increases by 30. Next, Goof walked down one floor at a time, and only Sukion followed behind him. The footsteps of the two echoed in the empty tower. Soon, the two came to the center of the last floor of the Danfeng Refining Chi Tower. Here, like the previous floors, there is a black hole connected, and the black hole on this last floor is connected to the real bottom of the tower. Above this black hole, there is an obvious space fluctuation. It is because of this seal that the fallen heart flame can be suppressed. Break! Goof shouted softly, raised his arm, and a strange beam of light shot straight out from his fingertips and hit the space seal. The air trembled violently for a moment, and the smoke and dust dissipated. The seal has been broken. This seal was originally solid and indestructible, able to block the impact of the fallen heart flame for many years, but it was easily broken by Goof at this time. Sukion is surprised. Emotional value plus 30. Sukion once again refreshed his understanding of Goof's strength. As the seal was broken, the feeling of the heart fire instantly became much stronger than before. The temperature of the air rose rapidly and became much hotter. It was visible to the naked eye that the air gradually twisted. Then, the originally peaceful energy here suddenly became like boiling water, and some dull sounds could be heard vaguely. Xiao Yan is suspicious. Emotional value +30. Feeling the terrifying breath coming from the bottom of the tower, Xiao Yan's eyes flashed with doubt again. He didn't doubt Gu's strength, but the fallen heart flame was too terrifying. Senior, are you really sure you can subdue the fallen heart flame? If this thing is released, with its hatred for my inner courtyard for so many years, it will destroy my inner courtyard in an instant. Xiao Yan frowned and asked very seriously, although things have come to this, it is still not too late for them to leave now. With Gu's strength, he can seal this place again and hold out for a long time. However, since he has already come here, how can Gu be willing to retreat because of fear? What's so difficult about subduing a mere fallen heart flame? Just wait and see. Gu smiled without commenting, and his tone sounded quite arrogant. Xiao Yan heard full of confidence from it. That kind of confidence came from his strength. Then, Gu did not stay for long and flashed directly into the black hole. Xiao Yan has a worried mood, and his mood value increases by 30. After Gu dived for a distance, a little bit of other scenes finally appeared in the depths of the bottomless black hole. It was a whole ocean of magma. However, the color of the magma here, compared with ordinary magma, is particularly dark red, as if it is mixed with countless blood, and the entire magma sea is full of a strange color. Gu's figure was suspended above the magma sea, and his eyes suddenly stopped at a certain place. There, an extremely violent and majestic energy was slowly gushing out from the bottom of the magma. And, with the surge of this violent energy, the tranquility in the magma world was also broken. A strong wind came from nowhere, whistling in the magma, driving the magma, rolling up a wave of fire as high as 10 feet, and then smashing down heavily. The roar at that moment was like a landslide. Fallen heart flame, come out. Although this kind of movement was huge, it was nothing to Gu. He looked very calm and shouted to the bottom. Puff. As Gu's voice fell, a wave suddenly rose on the calm surface of the magma. As the magma flew, a fire python whose entire body could not be seen, whose body was almost transparent, whose head was a foot long, and whose body was covered with invisible flames, broke through the magma, bringing with it a tremendous energy that shook the space, and appeared in Gu's eyes. Breaking out of the magma, the transparent fire python, which was so huge that it could not see the end, raised its huge head as if it had been imprisoned for 1,000 years. Sharp sound waves spread out rapidly. As the sound waves spread, the magma world seemed to be thrown into countless bombs. Low roars continued to sound, magma burst out, and flames spurted everywhere. After venting almost crazily, the huge transparent fire python, as if sensing the gaze from above, suddenly raised its huge head with triangular pupils with invisible flames, and stared at the figure of a young man standing above the sea. Kill me, and you can get out of here. Looking at the eyes of the invisible fire python, Gu smiled and said lightly, the fallen heart flame generates anger, and the emotion value increases by 20. After being suppressed here for many years, the fallen heart flame has already gained some intelligence, and resents all humans in its heart. They are all humans, who imprisoned it here. It stared angrily at this ignorant young man who dared to provoke it. It decided to keep Gu under this magma forever. The next moment, a column of fire burst out from the huge head of the invisible fire python. Gu's figure flashed quickly and approached the invisible fire python. At the same time, a huge column of fire was shot out from his palm to meet the invisible fire python. As the two energies collided, the huge Stanfenchi training tower above trembled greatly in the explosion. As it started, outside, many students and elders felt the fluctuation. The fluctuation was too terrifying, and many people turned pale. Many elders raised their hands together, and a complete barrier protected all the inner courtyard students. At the bottom of the tower, above the magma sea, after a fight, Gu did not even have his breathing disordered, and he was clearly in the upper hand. He did not use any words to provoke the fallen heart flame, but flames ignited in his eyes. "If you want to fight, then fight." This invisible fire python is indeed tricky, but it is nothing to him. "Since you can't find it, let's attack every corner and see how it can hide." The overwhelming fighting spirit bombarded the ground, the magma exploded, and red flames splashed, and screams could be heard from time to time. This absolute overwhelming advantage made it no surprise that Gu finally pulled out the fire spirit of the invisible fire python and suppressed it. The fire spirit let out a wail, and finally stopped struggling in Gu's hands. The magma under the ground fell into silence. This time was very fast, just 1 or 2 minutes, and the invisible fire python was suppressed. Then, Gu began to refine the fallen heart flame. The blazing flames burned fiercely, but Gu easily refined it. The flames gradually absorbed into the body without any ripples. Now, Gu has refined 2 strange fires. The power of this last fusion of strange fires is stronger than the fallen heart flame, so it is not difficult to refine it this time. After refining the fallen heart flame, Gu opened his eyes and continued to look at the magma sea. He said before that he would give some compensation to the inner courtyard. Therefore, he decided to go to the magma sea and take out the young fire of the fallen heart flame in the original book next to the body of the sky fire venerable and hand it over to the inner courtyard. In this way, the inner courtyard will not gradually lose its characteristics due to the lack of the fallen heart flame, but will be better, because the previous fallen heart flame was extremely violent and erupted from time to time, and the resentful emotion made it want to destroy the entire inner courtyard. And the young fire of the fallen heart flame has been taken care of and cultivated by the inner courtyard since childhood. Over time, it will protect the inner courtyard like its own home. Chapter 72 Flame Lizardman, Lord Skyfire. As it dived deeper and deeper, the fallen heart flame that Gu had taken away began to tremble, and the flames burned more fiercely. It seemed eager to explore the depths of the magma below, as if it wanted to meet someone. It seems that the fallen heart flame has sensed the breath of the sky fire venerable below. Gu raised his eyebrows. It just so happened that the magma affected people's perception of the surrounding environment, and it was more convenient to use the sense of the fallen heart flame in the previous owner. Next, Gu followed the sense of the fallen heart flame, constantly adjusted the direction, and gradually dived to the depths of the magma sea. In the distance, a strange white light circle appeared. Swish! Suddenly, a gust of hot wind came suddenly. At this critical moment, Gu also showed a rather terrifying reaction ability. The green light on the bottom of his feet flashed slightly, and his body twisted into a strange arc. Easily avoiding this attack, Gu trembled and retreated rapidly. While retreating, Gu turned around and looked at the place where the strong wind came from. Under Gu's gaze, a red figure was wandering in the magma at a distance of about 30 meters. Its body was red, the same color as the surrounding magma. If you don't look carefully, it would be difficult to find it. Moreover, the red body was covered with red scales. The red scale tail, about half a meter long, swung slightly, and the red figure stood upright. However, the pair of feet was abnormally wide, and its head was also round and covered with tiny scales. A pair of tiny pupils showed a faint ferocity. The monster's mouth opened slightly, revealing the densely packed sharp teeth. The whole appearance looked like a lizard that could walk upright. This is probably the fire lizard man described in the original book. As a time traveler, Gu was naturally not too surprised by this strange creature. Chiji. Just as Gu stared at the magma creature, the latter also stared at him fiercely. After the two sides confronted each other for a while, the magma creature's eyes suddenly became fierce, and a sharp cry came out of its mouth. The tail behind it swung, and the sharp claws directly cut through a large piece of magma, and then rushed straight towards Gu. The fire lizard man was weak, and Gu flicked his sleeves and shot out a stream of fighting spirit, and the fire lizard man flew backwards. Gu sucked his palm, and a red bead appeared in his palm. A red bead was flashing a faint hot light, and it contained a very powerful and violent fire attribute energy. Curiously, he picked up the red bead, but after taking a look, Gu casually threw it into the ring. This thing was only in the body of a Huang-level lizard man, and it was really useless to him. Just when he was about to cast his eyes on the transparent light circle again, his eyes flashed, and Gu Fei turned his eyes to the west of the red magma. The magma there suddenly made a violent commotion. After a while, a large group of red figures swarmed in behind the magma like a school of fish. These guys gather very quickly. Gu Fei frowned. He didn't want to fight. Among this dense group of fire lizardmen, there are already several Zong strength. Gu Fei knew that there were people who surpassed Zong among the fire lizardmen. Moreover, in the deepest part, there were even 2 lizardmen who reached the level of semi-saints guarding. If he alarmed those 2, he would be in danger. Get out of the way. With Gu Fei's speed, of course he could get rid of these lizardmen. There were constant wailing sounds in the magma. After defeating some fire lizardmen who were blocking the way, Gu Fei was gradually approaching the white light circle. With a flash of his figure, Gu Fei blasted away a lizardman standing in front of the light circle with his last palm, and then rushed into the white light circle. As Gu Fei entered, the surrounding magma began to wriggle again, then slowly rotated, and under the gaze of many lizardmen, it strangely disappeared. Shortly after Gu Fei entered the light shield, several blood-red figures shot over like lightning, and finally appeared in this magma area. Seeing these figures, the surrounding flame lizardmen hurriedly knelt down. This race seemed to be not good at the power of space. Therefore, these flame lizardmen with Zun strength could not find the situation inside the white light circle. They roared in anger, but there was nothing they could do. After roaring in anger a few times, the blood-red figures had to give up, looked fiercely at the light shield, and then slowly left with many lizardmen. As they left, this area became quiet again. In the white light circle, after Gu Fei appeared, a corpse appeared in his sight. On the corpse, an invisible fire was burning quietly. This fallen hard flame was very small, and the temperature it emitted was far less than that of the fallen hard flame in Gu Fei's body. At the same time, Gu Fei felt the detection of a soul power. Come out, Gu Fei said to the corpse. As Gu Fei's voice fell, a brilliant white light suddenly burst out from the skeleton. The white light slowly crawled, and finally turned into an illusory old figure. The figure was dressed in a white robe, with snow-white hair and beard, an old face, and a faint brilliance flashing in his plain eyes. Skyfire Venerable has a feeling of surprise and panic, and the emotion value increases by 60. I didn't expect that you are so young, but you have already reached the peak of Zong cultivation, and your soul power is so strong. The old man glanced at Gu Fei, and his eyes showed a touch of surprise. Geniuses like Gu Fei were rare even in his time. You are not the only one who praises me, Gu Fei said lightly. He had heard these words too many times. Seeing this, the old man in white robe smiled, and there was a sense of pride in his smile. He said, I am Yao Dan Hao, and others sometimes call me Venerable Dan Hao. Venerable, it means one thing. His achievements in the past reached the realm of Zun. Hearing this, Gu Fei naturally had no reaction, and said bluntly, looking at the abnormal reaction of the fallen heart flame just now, you should be the previous owner of this fallen heart flame. You guessed right, I am indeed the former owner of the fallen heart flame. Venerable Dan Hao smiled and said, he looked at the young fallen heart flame with some nostalgia, and said slowly, back then, I found this magma sea and discovered the trace of the fallen heart flame for the first time. After that, it took me several years to finally tame it. The fallen heart flame that I tamed is the one in your body now. Hearing Skyfire Venerable suddenly talking about the past, Gu Fei did not interrupt. Chapter 73 Xiao Yan, Big Brother, can you take me home? Back then, I relied on my own abilities and thought that I could go anywhere in the world. Therefore, after I subdued the fallen heart flame, I did not leave. Instead, I curiously went deep into the magma world. The Skyfire Venerable said with a sigh, as if he regretted his recklessness back then. After going deep into the magma world, I found another fallen heart flame's alien fire seed, so I wanted to collect it greedily. As a result, the two alien fires merged into my body, and a war of alien fires broke out, which seriously injured me. At this moment, I was attacked. The Skyfire Venerable sighed. Finally, due to the siege of the flame lizardman and the severe injuries in my body gradually collapsed. At that last moment, I released the mature fallen heart flame that I had subdued, and my soul was attached to the seed of the strange fire, hoping to preserve it. But after so many years, My soul has gradually become unable to support itself. If no one enters here in a few years, perhaps my soul will completely dissipate." The voice of the Skyfire Venerable paused, and his eyes suddenly looked at Gu Fei, with a tone of request. "My friend, can you please take me out?" He did not ask Gu Fei to help him rebuild his body like Yan did in the original book, because Gu Fei's current strength is much stronger than his, and he can kill him at any time. "Of course, as a reward, I will not let you work in vain. I have a scroll of fighting skills that is as powerful as the heaven-level fighting skills." The next moment, a pale white scroll was handed to Gu Fei by the Skyfire Venerable. Gu Fei had some impression of this scroll of fighting skills. If he could master the 5 kinds of strange fire, his power would be top-notch among the primary fighting skills of the heavenly rank. "If I don't go out, I'm afraid I won't be able to hold on for a few years." This 5-wheel fire separation method is the fighting skill that made me famous back then, my friend. The Venerable Skyfire felt pleading and uneasy, and his emotion value increased by 50. "Since we have met, we are also somewhat destined. I will take you out." Gu Fei put away the scroll handed over by the Venerable Skyfire and nodded, which was considered as an agreement. "Thank you, my friend, for your great kindness. I will definitely reward you handsomely in the future." The Venerable Skyfire felt grateful, and his emotion value increased by 50. Immediately, the fallen heart flame and the soul of the Venerable Skyfire were taken away by Gu Fei. The soul of the Venerable Skyfire was in the ring. Gu Fei thought for a moment and sealed the ring. Under normal circumstances, the Venerable Skyfire could not pry into Gu Fei's privacy. Gu Fei knew that the space of the ancient emperor's cave was located at the deepest part of the magma. However, with his current strength, if he entered there, even if he was not beaten to death by the semi-saint lizardmen guarding outside, he would be shattered by the words of the old dragon emperor Zhukun, who was guarding the door inside. Therefore, he just looked over there and prepared to leave, without curiously going there to check. There, only when his strength becomes stronger, can he enter. 10 minutes later, Xiao Yan, who was waiting outside the Tanfan refining cheat tower, suddenly stood up. In his sight, Gu Fei looked calm and walked out slowly from the passage in the tower. Xiao Yan has doubts, and the emotion value increases by 40. "Senior, what's wrong?" Seeing Gu Fei come out so quickly, Xiao Yan asked with a puzzled expression. "Brother Gu Fei, did you get what you wanted?" Xiao has a caring emotion, and the emotion value increases by 100. King Lin has a caring emotion, and the emotion value increases by 70. Xiao and King Lin also walked forward and asked with concern. "It's all done." Gu Fei smiled and replied to the two of them, then looked at Xiao Yan. "I have already collected the previous fallen heart flame, but I found a fallen heart flame young fire a little below the magma. I think this thing is more suitable for your Canaan Academy than the previous one. If it is cultivated well, it should be much more useful than the previous fallen heart flame," Gu Fei said, and a young fallen heart flame floated in his palm. Xiao Yan has a surprise emotion, and the emotion value increases by 40. "This is actually a fallen heart flame young fire." "Thank you, Senior," Xiao Yan said excitedly. He also understood that this young fire is indeed more convenient to use than the previous fallen heart flame. The previous fallen heart flame had already developed spiritual intelligence, was dissatisfied with the imprisonment of the inner courtyard, was full of hatred, and had always wanted to destroy the inner courtyard. And this young fire, after being cultivated by the elders of the inner courtyard, can also release the heart fire, and will protect the inner courtyard as if it were home. However, the cunning Xiao Yan thought of what Gu Fei had said before, that he could give compensation, so he tried to ask, "I wonder what kind of compensation the senior planned to give to the inner courtyard? Is 1 Pozong Dan enough?" Hearing this, Gu Fei paused, and this action made Xiao Yan very uneasy. However, as Gu Fei took out a jade bottle from his ring and handed it to him, Xiao Yan finally breathed a sigh of relief. He almost changed his words and said that he was just joking. Pozong Dan is a 6th grade peak elixir, which is not worth mentioning to Gu Fei. He was able to refine it a long time ago, and this resource was not taken seriously by him. However, for Canaan Academy, this elixir is extremely precious. Among the many elders in the inner courtyard, there are several Dhuang peak and high-level Dhuang. If there is this Pozong Dan, maybe in a few years, there will be one more Zong in the inner courtyard. Yan feels surprised, and his emotion value increases by 40. That's enough. Thank you, senior. In front of Gu Fei, Yan didn't have the kind of majesty he usually had towards young students in the academy, and acted like a junior. This situation shocked the students. King feels shocked, and his emotion value increases by 1. Big brother, hello. Suddenly, a childish voice sounded beside Gu Fei. Gu Fei turned around and found that the person who spoke was Yan. Her big black eyes looked up at Gu Fei in a slightly obedient manner. What a cute little sister. Seeing such a delicate little girl, Gu Fei smiled. Yan now looks very well behaved, and with her cute appearance, she might be able to confuse many people, but Gu Fei knew that this girl was actually very irritable. King is surprised, and his emotion value increases by 1. Is this still the brute force king? If it wasn't for the day when I saw her break several ribs with one punch without any explanation, I would have been fooled by her. Gu Fei remained calm at this moment. Yan's usual temper could be seen from the shocked reactions of the inner courtyard students at this moment. Little sister, is there anything wrong with you? Seeing that Gu Fei did not respond, the little medical fairy asked on his behalf. Yan is hesitant, and his emotion value increases by 100. I want to ask big brother, if you really know my life experience? Yan said hesitantly. I guess Yan and Yan said something when Gu Fei went down to the bottom of the Tanfan refining sheet tower. Your life experience. I do know. Gu Fei nodded. Really? Yan is surprised, and her emotion value increases by 100. Please tell me. Okay? Yan asked in surprise. If you want to know your origins, you need to leave the northwest continent and go to Zhongzhou, because your people live there. Gu Fei did not keep them in suspense. Listening to the conversation between Gu Fei and Yan, the others were a little confused. Yan is hesitant, and her emotion value increases by 100. Then, can you take me home? After hesitating again, Yan clenched her fists, with a firm look in her eyes. Chapter 74 Black Emperor City, Body Incarnation Saliva. Yan felt so nervous for the first time. She stared at the pair of dark eyes in front of her, trying to smile well. Yan is nervous. Emotional value increases by 100. Yes, you can. But if I want you to take you back to the tribe, you must promise to listen to me and not lose your temper along the way. Gu Fei nodded. When he thought of the somewhat lawless Yan in the original book, he felt a headache again, so he greeted her in advance. Yan feels guilty. Emotional value increases by 100. Didn't I pretend to be very well behaved? Didn't Big Brother hear the discussion of those students? Yan felt a little guilty, but she seemed to lack confidence and assured, don't worry, Big Brother, I will be obedient. The inner courtyard students around her looked at Yan's big eyes blinking, her canine teeth pointed, and her innocent appearance, and all showed a look of surprise and speechlessness. Could it be that the brute force king is really going to turn over a new leaf? You believe this? I heard that she burned down a house the next day after she made a promise to the great elder. Yan heard their whispers, and she clenched her fists in her sleeves. Her expression still looked innocent, but if that fist hit anyone, that person would have to recover for several days. Gu Fei glanced at Yan indifferently. Yan feels surprised and guilty, and her emotion value increases by 100. The fighting spirit brewing at her fingertips dissipated into the air. Yan smiled with her eyes curved, pretending that nothing happened. Is the perception of the big brother so powerful? Yan certainly noticed the actions of the two. He only felt his eyebrows throbbing, and sighed helplessly, as if he was used to being angry with Yan. Although this girl is naughty, she has a good heart. Taking a few steps forward, Yan explained for Yan. Gu Fei didn't know whether to believe it or not, and hummed softly. Yan feels hesitant, and his emotion value increases by 50. Yan's scrutinizing eyes fell on Gu Fei. He knew that Yan had always been eager to find out about her life experience. Now, by chance, she met a destined person who happened to know her life experience. After a brief contact, Yan also felt that Gu Fei was not the kind of person with bad intentions. This was his intuition. So, he just glanced at Gu Fei, and after confirming that he could probably control Xian, he did not object to Xian going out. After all, Xian had stayed in Canaan College for too long and had never gone out. Seeing that Gu Fei and the Great Elder had agreed, Xian's little face was full of smiles, and she jumped up with joy. Now Yixian and King Lin looked at her emotional expression, and their eyes curved. Next, Gu Fei did not stay in Canaan College for long. After all, there was nothing important to Gu Fei in Canaan College, so after Xian packed up her things, they prepared to leave the college. Xian, be obedient outside. After all, Xiao had watched Xian stay in the academy for so long. She was leaving suddenly, and he was reluctant to touch her head. Great Elder, I will definitely come back to see you in the future, Xian said crisply, and then opened her arms without looking back, and threw herself on the broad back of the purple crystal-winged Lion King with excitement. It was furry there, and Xian sank into it, rolling around. Xiao retracted his gaze and shook his head helplessly. Senior, Xian is still troubled to take care of her. Gu Fei nodded, and then hugged Yixian and King Lin and climbed on the back of the Lion King. The four of them waved goodbye, and you could still see the relief in the eyes of the group of inner courtyard students. There were also a few people staring at Gu Fei with burning eyes, their hearts full of yearning for the strong. Lin Xiuya has a yearning emotion, and his emotion value increases by 30. Liu King has a yearning emotion, and his emotion value increases by 30. The Lion King flapped its wings and flew into the sky. Gu Fei looked into the distance with deep thought in his eyes. The next place Gu Fei planned to go to was the Black Emperor City. According to Gu Fei's memory, in the original book, the people of the Black Emperor sect would auction a piece of body transformation saliva in a few years, and that kind of treasure might have been obtained by the Black Emperor sect now. It is also introduced in the original book that the Black Emperor sect had been studying the body transformation saliva for many years without any information, so they had no choice but to auction it. In the original book, the body transformation saliva was a treasure that attracted many Zong masters in the Black Horn region to scramble for. This body transformation saliva, if taken, has the effect of rebirth and improving the physical constitution of some ordinary people, which is very magical. And it is said that with the body transformation saliva, one can also sense the body-mind. In some remote mountains, there is a magical ancient tree called the Body Ancient Tree. The roots of this tree buried deep in the earth will gradually form a sticky heart-shaped thing with magical effects after years of condensation. Therefore, some people call it body heart. But generally speaking, it takes at least 1,000 years for a body tree to condense into body heart, and body saliva is some magical thing secreted from the surface of this body heart. As for body heart, it can truly be called a spiritual thing of heaven and earth nurtured by the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. If this magical thing is taken by people, it is said that it can gradually replace the human heart. In this way, even if the heart is attacked fatally, it is afraid that it can save life. Moreover, the power that this body heart can provide to people is much stronger than the previous heart. Of course, the most important thing is that this thing can continuously warm the soul, so that the soul gradually becomes stronger. This is definitely an irresistible temptation for the pharmacist. Of course, Gu Fei's biggest idea for the time being is to gather things to improve the physical condition of the little medical immortal, which is a necessity for the poison pill method. In the original novel, Yan needed to refine the poison pills to help Yixian control her poisonous body. The three things needed were several kinds of strange fire, the magic core of the 7th level demon beast, the sky poison scorpion dragon beast, and the body saliva. The journey was peaceful, but Gu Fei looked at Xian's listless appearance every day, as if he had abused her. He signed helplessly, picked and chose from the ring for a while, and took out a handful of pills. Xian was curled up, looking at the scenery at her feet boredly. When she heard Gu Fei calling her, she looked over with drooping eyes. But she saw Gu Fei spread his palm to her, where there were a handful of pills. Xian had a surprise emotion, and the emotion value increased by 100. Xian jumped up directly. Brother Gu Fei, are these all for me? Gu Fei hummed and stuffed them all into Xian's hands. Without even looking at it, she swallowed it in one gulp. Her cheeks puffed up, and she kept chewing. Slow down, No one is competing with you. These were the flavored pills that Gu Fei had specially picked. He didn't pay too much attention to the grade of the pills. After all, with Xian's strong body, as long as it wasn't a highly toxic poison, she could digest it all cleanly. Xian swallowed everything in her mouth, wiped her mouth, and smiled sweetly. Thank you, Brother Gu Fei. Xian felt grateful, and her emotion value increased by 100. Gu Fei touched Xian's head. He found that it was quite interesting to feed this little guy Xian occasionally. Chapter 75. Xian, please, give me a transformation pill. One day later, Gu Fei, Xian and his party followed the map and rode the purple crystal-winged Lion King to gradually approach the Black Emperor city. As they approached, the huge city at the end of the avenue finally appeared in the sight of Gu Fei and the other four. What a domineering city! On the back of the Lion King, Xian looked at the towering city wall in the distance, and a flash of amazement flashed in his eyes. This Black Emperor city is indeed as its name suggests. The magnificent scale does not make it lose the color of the word emperor. The pitch-black city wall that stretches to the end has a cold taste. The sunlight pours down, and even makes the black city wall like a mirror, reflecting a faint light. Those who know the good can find that the surface of the city wall is actually covered with a layer of quite rare black mirror stone. The city wall cast with this material has the miraculous effect of rebounding some attacks. Therefore, using them to cast the city wall can be regarded as a very good choice, but this thing is also quite rare. The Black Emperor sect was able to use it to cover a whole city wall. Such a foundation was really powerful. When he came here, Gu Fei did not intend to waste time. He rode the Lion King directly into the city and then went to the Black Emperor sect. The Lion King stopped in the air. Its huge figure had long attracted the attention of the Black Emperor sect. Who is trespassing into my Black Emperor sect? Countless Black Emperor sect disciples were on guard, and then more than a dozen figures flew into the sky. These were all elders of the Black Emperor sect who had reached Duang and Huang cultivation. Seeing this scene, Xian suddenly became a little nervous. Although she was naughty, she also knew the strength of the dozen people in front of her. Call your sect master Mo Tanxing out. I have something to find him. Gu Fei left the back of the Lion King and walked in the air. This move immediately shocked the Huang elders of the Black Emperor sect. No one thought that such a young boy would actually be a Zong strongman. Moreover, the sense of oppression that Gu Fei brought to them was much stronger than that of their sect master. As Gu Fei finished speaking, an old man in a yellow robe came in the air. On his yellow robe, there were several golden pythons embroidered on it. Under the sunlight, they reflected a faint light, like a living creature, releasing a strange oppression. I wonder what the senior wants to see me for? Although Mo Tanxing was a 3-starred Zong, he still knew his own limitations in front of Gu Fei, so he was quite respectful when he came up. Mo Tanxing felt fear and suspicion, and his emotion value increased by 30. Gu Fei glanced at him and asked directly, "Do you have body transformation saliva?" Hearing this, Mo Tanxing's eyes flashed with surprise and hesitation. Although his emotions were well hidden, Gu Fei still noticed them. "I don't like to hear lies," Gu Fei snorted coldly, and a momentum surged out, oppressing Mo Tanxing. Mo Tanxing is in a state of panic. His emotion value increases by 35. "Senior, I did get that thing." Mo Tanxing broke out in a cold sweat and nodded. He did have the body transformation saliva, but he had not found any results. Moreover, due to the strong aura revealed by Gu Fei, he thought that Gu Fei must have gotten the news when he came here today. Hiding it might lead to disaster, so he knew the situation and did not continue to hide the fact that he had obtained the body transformation saliva. "I will exchange some elixirs for the body transformation saliva with you. Are you willing?" Gu Fei's eyes fell on Mo Tanxing coldly, with an imposing manner. Of course, Mo Tanxing did not dare to disobey. He paused for a moment, then ordered his men to take the body transformation saliva from the treasure house and handed it to Gu Fei respectfully. Gu Fei took out 2 jade bottles and threw them to Mo Tanxing quite casually. Mo Tanxing feels surprised, and his emotion value increases by 35. "It's actually a Pozong Dan, and a recovery Dan," Mo Tanxing said in surprise. Originally, he thought that meeting a strong man like Gu Fei would inevitably cost him money to avoid disasters. But he didn't expect to gain the value of these 2 pills combined. which seems to be better than the body-body transformation saliva, whose usage has not yet been figured out. Thank you, Senior. A trace of burning flashed in Mo Tangxing's eyes. He quickly put away the Pozong Dan and the recovery Dan, and bowed to Goof. Goof ignored him and went straight back to the back of the purple crystal-winged Lion King. I didn't expect it to be so smooth. Zhao Yixian, King Lin and Xuan gathered around. They all knew that this thing was used to treat Zhao Yixian's physique. This Mo Tangxing is quite sensible. Goof smiled and took out the body-body transformation saliva from the ring. What came into view was a transparent crystal box, which reflected a dazzling dreamy light under the sunlight. In the crystal box, there was a mysterious faint fluorescence. As the light spread, a fist-sized, emerald green, strange, viscous substance slowly moved and floated in it. It was like a mollusk, and as it moved, layers of liquid surged, looking like a living thing. This emerald green viscous liquid was suspended in the air in the box without any support, and it seemed to have intelligence, slowly floating in the box, with a strange halo permeating the surface, looking extremely magical. The little doctor's beautiful eyes were full of curiosity, and King Lin and Xuan sat closer, staring at the body-body saliva without blinking. Brother Goof, where are we going next? After a moment, Xuan licked the corner of her mouth, swallowed several pills, and asked with her head tilted. Goof smiled. Zhangzu. Ziyan was surprised, and her emotion value increased by 100. Really? That's great. Goof's plan was to leave the northwest continent and go to Zhangzu. There was nothing in the northwest continent that could attract Goof for the time being. Their first stop was to go to the nearest city with a space wormhole, Tanya City. When they arrived here, Goof planned to use the space wormhole to go to Zhangzu. After all, it was a journey of hundreds of thousands of miles. Compared with riding the purple crystal-winged Lion King, it was of course faster to use the space wormhole to travel. After thinking for a moment, in order to allow the Lion King to control the spaceship in the space channel, Goof gave the Lion King a transformation pill. The purple crystal-winged Lion King has a surprise emotion, and the emotion value increases by 30. Thank you, Master. A low voice came, and the Lion King took the transformation pill. The beast's eyes closed tightly, and a strong purple light began to emerge from his body. Seeing this scene, Ziyan's eyes suddenly widened. Brother Goof, I also want the transformation pill. Ziyan looked at Goof like a spoiled child. Hearing this, Goof touched Ziyan's head and said, when you break through to Duhuang, I will give you the transformation pill. Okay. Ziyan had to agree angrily, and turned around and began to practice seriously. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.